If you want to watch the extended version of this video with everything I can't show you on YouTube and Spotify, head on over to patreon.com/traplawross. Young Thug is one of the most creative and stylish rappers to ever emerge from Atlanta. Atlanta is the city that gave us trap music legends like T.I., Gucci Mane and the Migos, and has become a mecca for modern day rap music. Whether it's the uber creative and conscious raps of Outkast to the drugged out auto-tune ballads of Future, in Atlanta there's something for everyone. But there's very few people that have been able to successfully combine such a deep level of creativity with hardcore gangster rap. But Young Thug is perhaps the most peculiar and interesting rapper to ever emerge from the city, as this gender-bending, gun-toting genius went against every rule in the rap game. From painting his nails and infamously wearing a dress on his Jeffrey album cover, Thug single-handedly changed the definition of gangster. But don't be fooled, because behind this dress is allegedly a violent gang leader who won't hesitate to take you out if you cross him. Because on May the 9th, 2022, Atlanta rapper Young Thug was arrested along with 27 other people associated with his YSL collective. In a 56-count Georgia state RICO indictment, Thug was accused of being the ringleader of a dangerous gang, YSL, which he was alleged to be running under the guise of a record label and musical collective. But according to the prosecutors, Thug was actually the head honcho of this dangerous criminal organization that was responsible for a litany of murder, assault, robbery, carjacking, firearm, and drug offenses. And over the course of the trial, salacious details of Young Thug's beef in the streets were dragged out in the courtroom, including apparently true lyrics about having had one of his enemy's mother's house shot up. These charges were extremely serious, and Thug was potentially looking at spending decades or perhaps the rest of his life behind bars. But considering the seriousness of his charges, many people were shocked to hear the news when just over 2 years later, Young Thug was released from jail on Halloween, October the 31st, 2024. He had spent over 700 days in jail before accepting a plea deal that saw him pleading guilty to several serious charges for participating in the criminal street gang. He was ultimately given a 40-year suspended sentence, with the first 5 years incarceration commuted to time served, meaning that his roughly 2.5 years in jail awaiting trial would actually allow him to get right back onto the streets. This was an absolutely jaw-dropping move by the court, which shocked many. People were left asking, how is it that someone can be the leader of a violent gang that committed crimes as serious as murder be allowed back on the streets so easily? Well, behind the scenes, there were a series of insane dramas that played out both inside the courtroom and in the back rooms, with one of the most sloppy prosecutions in Atlanta history combined with some ingenious tactics that seemed to put Young Thug and his team one step ahead of prosecutors at all times. But today, with Thug back on the streets, many questions remain unanswered. Was all of this just luck, or did Young Thug and his team learn from other body-beating rappers like King Von and create an ingenious tactic of playing both sides in the courtroom? Moves which allowed them to replace unfavorable judges, destroy the credibility of key witnesses, and corner the prosecution in such a way that in the end, there was no way of knowing what was truth and what was a lie. For years, I and many others have wondered exactly what was going on behind the scenes and what was the true motive behind the alleged murder that nearly took Young Thug off the streets for good. Well, today, we're going to be blowing that case wide open and answering once and for all why Young Thug wanted certain people dead in his city, how him and YSL operated as a criminal organization, and how him and his team were essentially able to get away with murder in the courtroom, absolutely demolishing one of America's most high-profile district attorneys and completely robbing the family of a murdered rival of the justice that they so desperately seeked. This is the story of Young Thug, the demon in a dress.
Jonesboro South.
Atlanta is on schedule to become the first major city to tear down all of its project housing.
Atlanta police is investigating a shooting on Cleveland Avenue.
Fatal shooting on Cleveland Avenue.
Shooting on Cleveland Avenue. Shot in the head off Cleveland Avenue.
Police tell us that they are investigating another shooting on Cleveland Avenue. There have been multiple shootings near this stretch of Cleveland Avenue just in the past couple of months.
Man, stole this swag, though. Hey, Jay, how you say he do it? Hold on, let me wind it.
I'm Young Thug, aka Jeffrey. I'm Jonesboro South. Born there, stayed there, still there. Long time ago, I've been right around. Nobody never believe in me. Roc Crew, Jonesboro South.
What we going on? Roc Crew.
It's something like that called Roc Crew. What is that and how did that come about?
I mean, it's not a crew. It's a gang. I mean, it's not a gang or a crew. It's a family.
I would say it's the melody in his voice.
I want to be right here. I got one of the biggest bloods in America with me, my Georgia nigga.
031. That's what I stand on.
True blood.
True blood.
In my world, of course, it don't matter. You know, you could be a gangster with a good dress.
I would say it's the bravery. He's brave.
Yeah, I'm on train. Don't even think. Yeah, I got time. Yeah, I'm on train. Got a big bang. Don't even think.
Then I met Baby. He came to one of my shows in Miami. He was like, nephew, pull up on me at the studio. I got one I want you to hit. He hit Spacebar. The rest is history.
His earliest mixtapes in 2011, we've seen Young Thug transform hip-hop.
Like, shout out to Jeff. Was it you want your fans to know more than anything else? I just want everybody to know that I'm a genius.
Yeah, YSL. Part 6 coming out Friday, first show. New Orleans, Holly Grove. Beat me down, baby. Beat me down.
Now, you're the close friend named Nut.
Yeah.
Was that your best friend?
That was one of my best friends, big brother.
I was the nigga that was still with Birdman and Thug that can tell Nut this was happening over here. But before I could drop it, the murder happened. Now the beef is on.
What happened with Rich Gang?
We can focus on our solo career. It's still family though.
I was the first at Nut mama house, and she grabbed me, said they killed my baby, pulled me on her bed, and held me like he crying that they killed her son.
I saw you also was tweeting at Young Thug's fiance, and he was saying that you were just trying to come at him because he's the hottest rapper.
I don't think we can be like how we used to be. Right. He already did. He already just did some bull.
A 15-year-old boy shot and killed this morning at a Southwest Atlanta apartment complex.
They said the 15-year-old was a known gang member.
The medical examiner says 23-year-old Shimel Drinks was killed near I-28 last night.
Young Thug is scheduled to appear in court today in Georgia on gang-related charges.
He's one of more than 24 people arrested as part of a sweeping gang indictment.
Mr. Williams committed no crime whatsoever.
My son has been unfairly linked to a lot of things.
It does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crime, and we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
And a rapper, Young Thug, is facing 7 new felony charges now.
Brad, you can't make this stuff up. Another day, another incident.
Take Mr. Teal into custody, please.
Many of the charges related to the indictment points to Young Thug's rap lyrics as well as social media posts as evidence.
You said who paid for the hotel?
Yes, you said you did not pay for it.
Yeah, I didn't pay for it.
So who paid for it?
I guess Young Thug, yeah.
Charged in this indictment, but he says wanna be slime, go catch you a body. Count 1, RICO. My niggas really be slime and we committing them crimes.
Take this to mother trial. I bet my life for real. For slime, you know I kill.
When we heard things like this is all just fantasy. Your Honor, that's not fantasy. People are dead.
I take full responsibility for, my crimes or my charges.
You feel what I'm saying? The right way.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick it up. Pick that shit up.
And I just want y'all to keep screaming his name. Long live and forever. Let them know they haven't done anything.
To truly understand the man behind the case, we have to go all the way back to the start and take a closer look at the mean streets that made the artist that we now know as Young Thug a thug so young. Real name Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug was born on the 16th of August 1991. He was the 10th out of 11 children on his mother's side of the family, a position that undoubtedly came with its own set of challenges, particularly how the Williams family grew up in extreme poverty. Thug spent much of his childhood in Jonesboro South, also known as JBS, a rough public housing project on the corner of Jonesboro Road and McWilliams Road in the southeast of Atlanta, not far from the infamous Cleveland Avenue that Thug and his YSL set would later begin to claim. Since its opening in the 1970s, Jonesboro South was plagued by poor living conditions, and it soon became a hub for gangs, drugs, and violence, such as the tragic 2004 shootout that would end up killing a 4-year-old girl named Cedriana Rosser. When speaking with the Fader magazine about his come-up in these projects, Thug would underscore just how run-down and poor the conditions were where he grew up, saying how these projects were nothing but rats and roaches. As part of Atlanta's effort to get rid of all the large public housing projects in the city that had become synonymous with crime, Jonesboro South apartments were eventually closed in 2007 before being demolished in 2008.
Housing Authority is pushing ahead with plans to demolish 2 public housing high-rises. Some members of the Atlanta City Council are trying to delay the demolition. They're concerned concerned about the impact on residents of the Roosevelt Tower and Palmer House, but the authority says it's time to make way for something new.
Our government should not be in the business of subsidizing poor living conditions, and we're not doing that any longer here in Atlanta.
The Atlanta Housing Authority has already demolished several older public housing complexes. The city gave residents vouchers and assistance in finding new affordable housing. Atlanta is on schedule to become the first major city to tear down all of its project housing.
The worst of those projects have been replaced by developments that were once unimaginable.
Housing Authority contractors began the demolition on Carver homes in late 2001. That cleared the way for private partners selected to invest in and manage the new developments at Carver and elsewhere across Atlanta.
Centennial Place. It used to be Techwood, located near Georgia Tech. This is the country's first mixed-income community built 13 years ago.
Poverty, the shootings, the drug abuse.
Two guys got in a fight right across in front of my house. I saw one peep his head around the corner, pow, pow, pow. It was just like you was in a movie, Western movie.
Eva Davis moved into Atlanta's East Lake Meadows housing project in 1971. It wasn't long before murder and mayhem became a way of life. The 650-unit housing project was never great, but when drugs took over and gangs claimed turf, it went from bad to horrible in a hurry.
They would shoot and cut and stab and kill each other. That's what they did.
By 1995, the crime rate was 18 times the national average.
But Thug would still seemingly remain living, or at least spending time in this area, as he and his friends would now move their main hangout spot down to Cleveland Avenue. Now, as many fans of Atlanta rap would know from the music of some of their favourite artists, locals commonly divide Atlanta up based on the city's different police precincts, or zones, that go from 1 to 6, the Jonesboro South and Cleveland Avenue belonging to Zone 3, which covers much of the city's southeast neighbourhoods. Zone 3 doesn't quite have the same notoriety that its neighbour in the north, Zone 6, has, also known by locals as East Atlanta, an area that's been made famous particularly by the godfather of Atlanta trap music, Mr. Zone 6 himself, aka Gucci Mane, who made his name in those streets whilst living in a Section 8 housing project called the Sun Valley Apartments, now known as Artisan East Village, located on Boulder Crest Road. Although ironically, these apartments are technically located in DeKalb County, therefore they're actually policed by the DeKalb Police Department, not the Atlanta Police Department, which is why they're also not officially part of Zone 6. But anyway, while Zone 3 might not be as famous as its neighbour, it's still one of the most active areas in Atlanta when it comes to crime and gangs. And it's particularly around Cleveland Avenue where much of this activity takes place.
Police tell us that they are investigating another shooting on Cleveland Avenue. We've been looking into crime around this area and realized there have been multiple shootings near this stretch of Cleveland Avenue just in the past couple of months.
Atlanta police are investigating a shooting on Cleveland Avenue. Police say someone shot a person, leaving them in critical condition.
Tonight, we are learning more about a fatal shooting overnight in southeast Atlanta. It happened just after 11 o'clock at an apartment complex on Cleveland Avenue. Several people were shot during this incident, including 4 women.
Police confirming a person in a car is at Grady Hospital after being shot. This happened near I-85 South at the Cleveland Avenue exit.
Police say 34-year-old Kira Baker was found shot in the head outside American Wings and Seafood off Cleveland Avenue.
And police is investigating a shooting on Cleveland Avenue. Officers tell us one victim in his 50s was shot multiple times and pronounced dead at the scene.
Cleveland Avenue, often called Believeland due to its heavy blood gang affiliations, or Little Haiti due to how rough the area has been over the years in a comparison to the third world country, the area played a significant role in shaping young Thug's early life. Sometime during the 2000s, Thug would allegedly get involved with a set known as Raised on Cleveland, also known as ROC, or the Roc Crew.
Swag, jacking out here. Put the camera on
Hold on, look, my partner say this man stole his swag now.
Hey, Jill, how you say he do it?
Hold on, let me wind it out.
Hey, Bob, I get on the nigga.
Hold on.
How you say
Shell say he the king of white boy swagging, right? Stand on one time, let's just let these folks see what you're doing now.
Straight out the goddamn. Rocked out right here, man, you know what I'm saying?
Alright, you check him out now. Now he said that he want to blow the whistle on young Christian right here.
Blow the whistle on that right here.
Nip the only take cameras in, take pictures in his camera phone and he don't got a camera phone. Do what he do. Do what he do, Joe. Do what he do, Joe, when you walk up.
Listen, guys, this is what he does. He's on his phone, but he's taking pictures of me at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Man,
I see this shit, now.
That's an expedition.
Man, RICO ain't nothing like that going on.
Y'all believe that? I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to see.
Try that.
feel? We down here, they park kicking it, man, every day. Little Monte right here, man. So Roc Crew, man. 8484, no, man. Check in with them one time.
The Roc Crew would rep the color red for their affiliation to the wider Blood Gang, with at least some of the members repping particularly the New York-originated Sex Money Murder, or SMM, a Blood Gang faction that's part of the so-called United Blood Nation, or UBN, an East Coast-originated Blood Gang alliance that also includes gangs like the 9 Trey Gangsters, G-Shine, aka Gangster Killer Bloods, or GKB, and the 183 Gangster Bloods. Money Murder is also known as the Two Gun Gang, which the gang reps by throwing two guns up, making gun fingers with both hands, as Thug and other members can be seen doing in this picture. Because of their blood affiliation, the Roc Crew would also call their set R05, replacing the C with a 5 due to their supposed hatred for the Crips, with the 5 also standing for the 5-point star that particularly the East Coast Bloods rep as a symbol for the People Nation Gang alliance that originated amongst gangs in the city of Chicago, but later spread to other areas. Young Thug would later make extensive use of the 5-point star and a number 5 instead of letters in his Spider clothing brand as well. But anyway, the Roc Crew would also rep their set by doing the famous diamond hand sign, originally invented by Jay-Z for his Rockefeller record label, and members of the Roc Crew would also show their alliance by rocking Jay-Z's Rockaware jeans brand. Now, members of the Roc Crew in Atlanta would also seemingly rep numerous other monikers and cliques, such as Young Loyalty, or YL, which was known together with the Roc Crew as YL Rock, ABC, which stands for All About Cleveland, and YB, which stands for Young Bloods. YRC stands for Young Roc Crew, or simply Young Crew, which they would call Young Brew, again replacing the C with a B, or sometimes abbreviating it to Y5, with a 5 also replacing the C. The Y5 moniker is still repped by many people from the area, such as the rapper Y5 Hit, also known as YSL Hit. Also, as was popular at the time in many cities, the Roc Crew would also have a female crew called the Roc Girls. The Roc Crew was also affiliated with numerous other blood sets and cliques from nearby areas, such as the Red Cartel, who were also from around Cleveland Avenue, and many had seemingly spent their early years in the nearby Gilbert Gardens apartments that were closed down in the mid-2000s, although the welcome sign for these projects would remain in place until the early 2010s, and it was repped by their set in their music videos, which would also showcase their heavy blood affiliation. Some of the sets affiliated with the Roc Crew were also more far away from Cleveland Avenue, such as the Mechanicsville Bird Gang, or MBG, who unsurprisingly hail from the Mechanicsville neighborhood near downtown Atlanta. MBG were also part of a larger gang alliance called 30 Deep from Mechanicsville and the neighboring Pittsburgh neighborhoods, which also included cliques like DRC, or the Robin Crew, and YRC, Young Robin Crew, who were raising hell in Atlanta and the nearby areas during the 2000s and early 2010s by committing numerous burglaries, robberies, and shootings. In fact, one of the key members of YSL, who later became a household name after his controversial but entertaining appearance during the YSL RICO trial, was Lil Woody. He would originally hail from 30 Deep, being allegedly part of the Robin Crew, and even writing on his Facebook in December 2009 how he had barely avoided arrest where several other members had gotten locked up. Hey, Woody's pretty good at avoiding getting arrested. Anyway, perhaps somewhat surprisingly, the Roc Crew was also cool with a set called ABG, or Atlanta Blood Gang, also known as Anybody Get It, who would later become some of the biggest rivals of YSL. But of course, ABG is better known for their close connection with YFN, or Young Fly N-Words, also known as YFN BC, or Young Fly N-Words About Cash, a crew who were made infamous by Young Thug's future arch nemesis, YFN Lucci, who just like Thug has been locked up on RICO charges since 2021, with him eventually agreeing a plea deal with prosecutors and currently having a rumored release date of January 2025. But for some reason, the prosecutors in Lucci's RICO case would claim that YFN was formed as a subgroup of ABG around the mid-2010s, but in reality, YFN has actually existed at least since the late 2000s, and Lucci has seemingly been involved with the crew since the very beginning. ABG and YFN hail from the Summerhill and Peoplestown neighborhoods that are located on the other side of the Interstate 85 from the Mechanicsville neighborhood of Lil Woody, and like the name Atlanta Blood Gang boldly proclaims, they rep the wider Blood Gang just like the Roc Crew, with their main faction of the Bloods seemingly being from the Los Angeles originated Inglewood Family Gangster Bloods, or IFGB, also known as the IF Gang, or Nine Deuce, based on the 92nd Street in Los Angeles where the gang originated from, which is often stylized as WH92P, with the 92 replacing 2 O's in the word whoop, a word that members commonly use to rep the gang. However, ABG used to also be closely associated with Sex Money Murder, with some of their main members, like the rapper Ola Plea, repping the gang heavily. During the early 2010s, there was seemingly great unity between the blood gangs of Atlanta, with ABG members, like another one of their main rappers, Bloody J, shouting out numerous gangs, sets, and cliques on social media, such as 30 Deep, DRC, YRC, Bird Gang, Roc Crew, Y5 aka Young Crew or Brew, and 6 Money Murder. The Roc Crew and ABG were seemingly getting particularly close around 2012, as Young Thug would collaborate with them numerous times on the music side, with Bloody J, Ola Plea, and Thug even releasing a song called 6 Money Murder, a straight-up anthem for their gang, whilst also making numerous appearances with each other on video. With the Bloods relatively united, their main beefs were seemingly with other gangs, such as the Rollin' 60s Crips from the Thomasville Heights neighborhood. But in late 2012, a major change would take place in the Roc Crew, as some of the members would begin to rep a new set called the Young Slime Life, also known as YSL. The prosecutors would later claim during the YSL RICO trial that YSL was specifically founded by 3 people: Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, Walter Murphy, aka DK, and Trontavious Stevens, aka Slug, or Tip. However, the exact specifics of how YSL came to be is still shrouded in mystery, as the Roc Crew members weren't the only ones to rep this name, as it was also used by 6 Money Murder members associated with other sets, such as the ABG. Of course, this is not particularly surprising, given that the Roc Crew by no means came up with the name on their own, as 6 Money Murder members had at this point been calling each other Slimes for some time in Atlanta, and much longer on the East Coast, where the gang originated, with the origin of the term slime going back decades, with New York City rappers like Nori and Vado having used it at least since the early to mid-2000s, as Vado would explain to DJ Vlad in a 2010 interview.
I heard you started saying slime like 5 years ago.
Yeah, they're saying slime.
So did you make up slime?
Nah, I'm not gonna say I made it up. You know, someone in my neighborhood, which is G-Dog, shout out to G-Dog, he used to always say slime. He like a big homie to my camp. So I started saying slime. But come to find out, you know, Nori was saying slime. So he probably got it from Nori, you know, but Nori the big homie, you know what I'm saying? So he the slime father, he gave it to me. You know what I'm saying? Slime gave it to me and I'm running with it.
You use slime in a sentence. Like you give us like a slime dictionary here.
Hey yo, what's going on, slime? When you sliming through? Yo, what up with that slime you was with the other day? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it could be a noun, a verb.
It could be everything. But yo, slime was good.
Nor himself, on the other hand, has stated that slime was never supposed to be a gang-related term.
Slime was invented. Let me tell you how slime was invented. Don Lee's is the hugest pork eater I've ever known. He eats the pigs, everything. Don Lee's came to me and said, Slime, I'm going to the store to get a Pepperdine sandwich. Pepperdine sounded like pork to me. I said no. Come to find out, Pepperdine was a version of turkey. He comes to the studio, I said, oh, let me get a half. This is exactly how slime started. He said, it's a slime. Because I also invented the word haterade and jump off. This is f***ed up about slang. People use that as a gang terminology.
Right.
They say you slime, then you affiliated with a certain gang. You bozos. And it was also kind of to replace the word. So it's kind of like positive.
But anyways, before YSL was formed, or at least around the same time, the ABG rapper Ola Plea was already calling himself the King Slime, a moniker that Young Thug would later begin to use himself.
King Slime, you don't know that.
But whoever ultimately came up with the YSL gang didn't matter at the time, as they were all close to each other and repping that name together. When Ola Plea would release his 2014 mixtape, Slime Season, another name that Thug would later use himself, Ola would name Young Thug in the features as simply YSL, explaining in an interview how Thug was one of his slime little bros. YSL had quickly gained popularity in the streets, as Ola would also tell in the interview, but of course, as we know now, it wasn't long after this when these friendships would come crashing down due to the murder of Donovan Thomas, aka Big Nut, and the Atlanta police would truly begin to circle around Young Thug and the YSL gang. However, before we get to that, now that we know a little bit more about the early life of Thug in the mean streets of Zone 3 and the formation of YSL, the alleged street gang, it's time to take a closer look at the musical career of Thug and the artistic plays that would ultimately make this young blood a millionaire. Clearly, growing up in Atlanta's blood-dominated Cleveland Avenue was a huge influence on Young Thug's mindset growing up, and it would seem like he took this unique and tough gangbanging culture that was ingrained in him into his music to create a one-of-a-kind style. Because Young Thug isn't just any ordinary rapper or gangster, the enigmatic street rapper has had one of the most peculiar and colourful rises to fame that the rap game has ever seen. Young Thug began rapping publicly in 2010, with one of his first recorded tracks rumoured to be the later leaked song Racks After Racks featuring Jose Guapo and BFPL, produced by Done Deal. The song is extremely 2010, with heavy use of synths, rolling snares, and a heavy dose of auto-tune to match. And the song was painfully generic, but it had the seeds of Young Thug's unique style that blended auto-tune with street talk that would later make him famous. He would drop bars dripping in iconic Atlanta culture at the time, rapping about shopping in the Lenox Mall and rocking True Religion fits, and shouting out his street crew, the Roc Boys. On July the 4th, 2010, one of his earliest public appearances in a music video came in the form of a song by True Royal featuring Young Thug titled I'm On, or She Can Go, which saw Thug showing off a rapping style heavily influenced by Lil Wayne, comparisons that would continue for many more years into his career. The video also showed off Young Thug's diabolical crooked teeth, proving that there were clearly more guns than dentists on Cleveland Ave. But Thug's snaggle teeth did nothing to stop him from spitting hot fire, and from here he would continue to record tracks with other local artists. On December the 14th, 2010, Young Thug would collaborate with Rich Kids on the track $100 Autograph, where Thug would showcase his early flow and style, heavily inspired by Lil Wayne, with a light dose of auto-tune on the track, pretty much making Thug sound like a carbon copy of Wheezy. And on the track, he would rap back-to-back bars about cooking up dope and selling rocks on his block. Now, this track was apparently an early viral hit, with commenters on YouTube actually reminiscing on hearing this track at parties in Georgia. The song itself would serve as an introduction to Young Thug in the Atlanta underground music scene, as from here his name would begin to build up a buzz locally. However, rapping didn't become something that Young Thug would take seriously until 2011, following that big bust on the Raised on Cleveland gang. With the streets hot, he would refocus his attention on music with a work ethic to match, and from 2011 to 2012, Young Thug would drop numerous mixtapes, all self-released, highlighting his tough come-up and experiences with the Roc Crew on Cleveland Avenue. In an old interview from February the 24th, 2011, we would get an early look into Young Thug's mindset as a rising 19-year-old rapper, saying that he grew up in Jonesboro South and that he loves rapping, but nobody believed in you.
Everybody, I'm sitting here with Young Thug, a rapper on the scene trying to getting his name out here in the hip-hop game. So tell the people about yourself and who you are as an artist.
I'm Young Thug, aka Jeffrey. I'm from Jonesboro South. Born there, stayed there, still there. I'm 19. I like rapping. I like money too. I've been knew how to rap. A long time ago, I've been knew how to rap. Nobody didn't believe in me. My nigga Lil Losa believed in me. His name Losa. Shout out to Losa. I salute you. But I'm not. I like rapping. I love rapping.
Thug would also touch on the meanings and origins of his Roc Crew, accidentally slipping up and calling it his gang before backtracking and calling it his family.
Roc Crew, Jonesboro South, my mom.
It's something on there called Roc Crew. What is that and how did that come about?
I mean, it's not a crew, it's a gang. I mean, it's not a gang or a crew, it's a family.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know why they call it the Roc Crew. I guess that's just the name of it, ROC, but it should be ROF, you know what I mean? Because it's family, it's a family. And shout out to them, I love them.
He would also predict that he would work with Lil Wayne and Young Money, pretty much manifesting his future career moves without realizing just how much drama he would be bringing to the crew.
Okay, so what's next for Young Thug? Who should we look forward to you working with? Do music, any mixtapes when it come out? What can we expect in 2011?
Wayne, Young Money. I'm working with them.
You are? Right now?
No.
Are you going to? You're going to?
Yeah, Young Money, I'm coming.
Thug was clearly doing the most to promote himself and get his name out there in all the modern methods an artist in 2011 should have been using, and he would follow up his social media campaign with solid musical output. Thug's debut mixtape, I Came From Nothing 1, was released on June the 8th, 2011. An introductory mixtape to Young Thug, it had 13 tracks, and it was a tape that Complex would later describe as having a heavy influence from Lil Wayne. He would follow up his first mixtape with a sequel months later, and on December the 2nd, 2011, Thug would release his second mixtape, I Came From Nothing 2, and on July the 4th, 2012, Thug would drop the third and final installment in his I Came From Nothing series of mixtapes, and the last entry would prove to be the most successful. Anticipation for I Came From Nothing 3, whether it was positive or negative, existed months before the mixtape would actually drop, with forums buzzing with fans ready to hear the new tape, whether it was trash or not. The 22-track tape would showcase an evolution of Thug's style, and he was finally finding his own voice. I Came From Nothing 3 garnered more attention than his previous tapes thanks to a high-profile Pitchfork review. The review for I Came From Nothing 3, despite only giving it a 6.9 rating, provided a spotlight to Young Thug and represented a new level of attention for his music nationally and beyond. The mixtape was categorized as a dense, ambitious attempt to cultivate an entirely new style. The review acknowledged Thug's weirdness, not just as a gimmick, but as a presence, a persona, a mystique, and potentially style. Interestingly, it would be around this time that Young Thug would first mention YSL in a tweet, seemingly at this point showing his love for the fashion brand of the same name. But we of course know now that YSL will be reused as the future name of his music label and the acronym for his Young Stoner Life movement, something that was apparently separate from the Young Slime Life gang. gang. But anyway, in 2013, it would be a monumental year for Thug's career and his transition into the mainstream rap game. Following his impressive mixtape run, Thug would attract the attention of influential figures such as Gucci Mane, who would take Thug under his wing early in his career. And it would be this Atlanta trap music legend Gucci Mane who would sign Young Thug to his 1017 Brick Squad label, in a deal apparently offering $25,000 in cash without even hearing Thug's music. The month after signing with Gucci, on February the 23rd, 2013, Thug would drop his first installment of the 1017 Thug mixtape series, the title being a clear shout out to Gucci Mane's label who he'd signed to. This was the tape that many would say officially put Young Thug on the map musically. It was on August the 31st, 2013 that Young Thug's new song Stoner would be featured on DJ Spin's music compilation HPG3 and released on YouTube. At the time, the song didn't make that much of a huge splash, but over the coming months, Thug's star would continue to rise and he would later re-release the song with a proper rollout. Throughout the years, Young Thug had given many conflicting definitions of what YSL actually stood for. Everyone wanted a piece of Young Thug, but he was still loading up and cementing his persona, and his antics on social media would continue to raise eyebrows and spark conversation. With Young Thug in the spotlight, people would start questioning the way that he spoke about his male associate, such as in this post where he says, "I miss you, babe," in reference to his incarcerated friend. And this was by no means the only example. Thug would call Bloody J his lover, and he would also post a picture of himself in a hospital with a friend giving each other sips of lean, along with the caption, "Me and my love." Some people were looking at Thug's behavior and thinking it was a little suspect, but he would seemingly take note of the conversation that his zesty behavior was encouraging and lean into the persona further. And from here, Young Thug would continue to go viral for rather suspect reasons. On February the 1st, 2014, Young Thug would make an infamous post on Instagram wearing a leopard print dress. This naturally sparked intense debate on Young Thug's sexuality, with rising rap commentator DJ Academics voicing his opinion extensively, making a video about Thug's dress wearing and nail painting, and dropping a video pondering if Thug was truly the first openly gay trap rapper.
Killing the streets right now, but recently he's been seen queening out on Instagram. Now, a quick scroll through his Instagram page, I saw a nigga rocking a demonic animal print tutu. In another pic, he's rocking straight up Uggs. In another pic, and actually a couple of pics, he's calling another man Bae on Instagram. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I gotta ask, is this gay? Now, in my opinion, I think he's kicking down the door of the closet and he's en route to becoming the first openly homo thug trap rapper.
In the notoriously homophobic world of hip-hop, Young Thug's feminine habits were challenging norms and pushing the boundaries, despite the fact that Young Thug himself was seemingly extremely heterosexual, as he made clear on the track Danny Glover. But these antics were keeping Thug super viral and challenging the image of what a thug could be in the modern-day trap rap era. In a February the 4th, 2014 article, Fader would state that Young Thug was helping to change the rules of what it's acceptable for guys to wear. Obviously, questions about his sexuality didn't bother Thug, and if anything, all of this was just helping him grow his buzz. In this clip from a few months later, he says that he doesn't get tired of being called gay, but he does get tired of sneak dissing.
Hey man, I don't get tired of these chillin' saying gay. I don't get tired of these drinking this motherfucker act. Only thing I can get tired of is a slick dissing. You know who I'm talking about. Now them so don't get tired of spraying at your pull up. Boy.
He was later asked by Bossip what he means by calling guys his babes and his lovers, and he would respond saying that it's just a language and that there's nothing fruity going on.
You caused a lot of controversy. Everybody wants to know what you mean when you call your homies your baby or your hubby, your lover. Can you just set the record straight?
It's a language. There's nothing stupid or fruity going on. It's the way we talk. It's the way we live. Those are my babes, no my lovers, no my hubbies, whatever you want to call it.
Is it strategic at all, you know, to get people talking about you? Because you are somewhat of a new artist. So is it strategic to be controversial?
However, I don't know. I don't know a yes or no to that. That's a hard question.
Thug was becoming one of the most entertaining characters in rap, but regardless of all the rumors and commenters, all of this was helping Thug's rise, and he was about to have his breakthrough moment musically. Because despite the audio dropping in 2013 and building a slow and organic buzz, on February the 4th, 2014, Thug officially released the track Stoner as a commercial debut single. The song was massive, and it's considered his first major hit. It would be the track Stoner where Young Thug would begin heavily repping YSL in his music, and just in general. This is where his Young Stoner Life movement officially began. But it would be on this track that Young Thug would essentially explain the evolution of the Roc Crew gang, which apparently started as the Young Thugs in Charge, YTC, then turned into the Raised on Cleveland, or ROB, or ROC, or RO5 crew, then Sex Money Murder, SMM, and then finally Young Stoner Life, or Young Slime Life, which is YSL. Stoner was a huge hit for Young Thug, eventually peaking at number 47 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. It became certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America on May 2nd, 2016, selling 500,000 copies, and today the track's official video has 22 million views, and the original audio released in 2013 over 42 million views, along with 39 million plays on Spotify. Billboard even called it one of the songs that defined the decade of the 2010s. Thug had broken through to the mainstream and was becoming the hottest rapper to watch. He landed the cover of Fader's 90th issue, and the record labels were getting more and more serious about snapping up this sassy street superstar. In March 2014, Young Thug's affiliation with Cash Money Records and its CEO Birdman led to speculation about him signing to the label, though the label's publicist later denied the rumors. Thug would be smart to delay signing any more deals during this time, as it seemed that everything he touched turned to gold, and his price was increasing by the day. On March 17th, 2014, Young Thug would feature as a guest on another Young Money artist song, Tiger, the track Hookah, which debuted at number 94 on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart and went on to peak at 85. With a catchy beat and energetic flow, Tiger and Young Thug would take turns expressing their love for the finer things in life, from expensive cars to designer brands, and of course everyone's favorite Arabic smoking device, the hookah. The music video currently sits over 547 million views, and at the time, I remember this song just being everywhere and me loving it. Thug was getting more and more media attention, and people were fascinated by his style and persona. The Breakfast Club would react to a clip where Young Thug admits that he indeed was wearing a little girl's dress in the viral clip, with Charlemagne actually saying that he respects Thug's zesty gangster.
There's a lot of blurred lines when it comes to dressing now. Are men gonna all start wearing dresses? Is that the new wave?
No.
Well, here is Young Thug, and he does admit that it is a dress.
I do got to ask you about the leopard print joint you had on. Now, was that a shirt or was that a dress?
Oh yeah, that was a dress.
That was a dress?
I think that was like a 7, 8 year old dress, right? Like a little girl dress.
You like copped it like vintage store? Or where'd you pick it up at?
Unknown place of business. I won't let nobody know.
Yeah, you tell them where you cop it. They want to cop it. They gonna start wearing it. Have you seen anybody start rocking them now since?
Of course. I've seen a lot of these punks biting.
Now I respect Young Thug's gangster, okay? All you punks biting him by throwing on dresses, okay?
Thug's formula was working, and it seemed the internet would become fascinated by Thug's fruity fashion sense. On March 27th, 2014, a picture claiming to be Young Thug wearing a miniskirt and a fishnet vest would appear on the internet, further fueling speculation about his sexuality. And while the resemblance is uncanny, the picture was debunked by Complex to not be Young Thug, specifically due to the person not actually having any tattoos, and the real Young Thug actually being covered in them at the time. Not that I think he wouldn't wear something like this, but that wasn't actually him. But the fact that people believed it also said a lot. But anyway, behind the scenes, things were apparently getting complicated for Thug and his status as a signed artist. On March 28th, 2014, it's revealed that Young Thug signed a management deal, not a record deal, with Birdman's Rich Gang, but he would apparently also still officially be signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 Brick Squad. It's unclear how business worked out with Gucci, but this $25,000 deal he signed early in his career clearly didn't match the level that he had reached in his career at this point. So in April 2014, Young Thug officially signs a big deal, joining 300 Entertainment, home of fellow Atlanta track music stars, the Migos. And in an interview with DJ Vlad, Lyle Cohen of 300 would explain what he saw in Thug, explaining the bravery and creativity that he saw in Thug and his career at this point.
What was it about Young Thug that made you sign him? Because he's a very different hip-hop artist. I mean, I don't even know if you can call him hip-hop. It's almost like a new genre that he created.
I would say it's the melody in his voice. I would say it's the bravery. He's brave. Like, he's not... How about this? What pissed me off is he didn't even know who Run DMC was. Okay? I was so pissed off, but intrigued, too. Like, wow. Rap's that old?
Yeah.
But anyway, with Gucci Mane in jail at the time, and Thug finally out of the lowball deal that he'd signed early in his career, another gangster rap veteran would ultimately take him under his wing. Thug's relationship with Cash Money mogul Birdman would flourish during this period, and being the person who discovered and groomed Lil Wayne for stardom, this connection with Birdman was getting Thug closer to his rap idol. But another questionable post is made on Instagram of Young Thug with Lil Wayne, tagging Birdman with the caption, "You can tell that we're in love." Another rising artist who would get tangled up in the relationship between Thug and Birdman would be Homie Quan. Young Thug would post himself and Quan on Instagram with the caption, "Me and my hubby." Setting aside the suspect caption, Thug was building a close relationship with Rich Homie Quan as well as Birdman. And on September the 16th, 2014, Thug would again post himself and Birdman on Instagram with the caption, "Me and my lover." On October the 5th, 2014, Thug would wish a happy birthday to Rich Homie Quan with the caption, "Happy B-Day to my love." On November the 20th, 2014, Thug would post a picture of himself and Quan with the caption, "Me and Bae." Thug's antics were perhaps a joke, but he was indeed getting closer to this group of Atlanta music moguls as he reached the very top of the industry. At the end of the year, Rolling Stone would declare Young Thug as the hottest voice in rap at the time. Thug was on top of the world, and off the back of his enigmatic personality, viral stunts, and quality music output, he had proven that he was here to stay. But despite all the success, behind the scenes, things were getting tricky in the industry, as it would later turn out that Young Thug's association with fellow Blood member turned rap business mogul Birdman would get complicated, and his relationship with Rich Homie Quan and an alleged desire to take control of his career would lead to tension in the city, as rival crews and gangsters would ultimately wind up going to war over dominance of the Atlanta street music scene, with this battle unfortunately leading to the demise of an infamous Atlanta Blood gang member, with the consequences ultimately catching up to Young Thug nearly a decade later after he'd spent years building his career and reaching the top of his industry. It would be this 2015 murder that would nearly cause him to lose everything. By mid-2014, after signing a deal with a prominent label and positioning himself as one of the most buzzing gangster rappers in Atlanta, Young Thug had truly made it, transcending the cycle of poverty and violence that him and his peers had suffered growing up on the desolate streets around Cleveland Avenue. But this wasn't enough for Thug, who wanted a bigger slice of the pie in the Atlanta rap scene that was incredibly competitive around this time. And Thug wasn't by any means the only one getting a major bag off the rap game in his city, as numerous affiliated but also competing groups were battling for dominance over the industry. And interestingly, it seemed that a lot of these groups were affiliated with different major nationwide factions of the Blood Gang, such as Money Murder, also known as Two Gun Gang, Blazin' Billy, or BBO for Blazin' Billy only, as well as the Inglewood Family Gangster Bloods, also known as IFGB, IF Gang, or 9-2 Family, and the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods, also known as Billy Badass, or BBA. At one point, these groups were on friendly terms, but over time, it seems that the competitiveness in the scene and possible gang-related rivalries would lead to bitter conflicts that would eventually turn deadly. Young Thug's life at this time was busier than it had ever been. He was touring all over the country, often joined by his rich gang affiliates, Rich Homie Quan and the 5-star stunner himself, Birdman, who is also known to often flaunt his own blood affiliation, sometimes even seemingly indicating to also be part of this Money Murder faction of the gang. However, along with those highly famous blood-affiliated artists, there would also be some high-ranking Blood members who were perhaps unknown to the broader public, but whose names held enormous weight in the streets of Atlanta. In one Rich Gang tour vlog posted on World Star Hip Hop around this time, Young Thug would introduce one of these people to the camera, describing him as one of the biggest Bloods in America.
We want to be right here. I got one of the biggest Bloods in America with me. You did Atlanta, Georgia. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Die, we gon' big shout out to Birdman. I'm saying be rich gang, YSL for life. You know what I'm saying?
The man introduced by Thug was none other than Donovan Thomas Jr., better known in the streets as Big Nut. Big Nut was born on April 4th, 1988, and despite being only 26 years old in 2014, he was a bona fide OG in the streets of Atlanta, even with his nickname Nut, short for Peanut, coming from the fact that he was a small kid who, according to his mother, looked like the cutest peanut.
Would you tell the jury who it is that is depicted on State Exhibit 3, Yankee?
That's my son, Donovan Thomas Jr.
And did you call him Donovan Thomas Jr. or did you have another name for him?
Yeah, we called him Peanut.
Where did that name come from?
Just him growing up, he was smaller than he was, as you know now. And we just thought when he was born, he was just a cute little peanut, and that name just grew with him.
Nut grew up in University Homes public housing project that was located in West Atlanta near downtown before being torn down in 2009, and he attended the nearby Booker T. Washington High School. At some point, Nut would become affiliated with a gang that reps the old 4th Ward neighborhood, often known as simply 4th Ward, this gang sometimes being referred to as the Bird Gang. In fact, if Atlanta law enforcement are to be believed, Nut wasn't just any member, but the second in command in the Bird Gang. This set is, or at least was, also known as the Pink City Bird Gang. The Pink City name, according to some Redditors, allegedly comes from where Nut and his friends used to trap at. However, the name Pink City Bird Gang could also be a play on the classic 2003 song Purple City Bird Gang by Harlem rapper Jim Jones. Now, the Bird Gang is known as the BGCMB, the CMB at the end standing for their late member Lil Chris, real name Christopher M. Bennett, who was killed in 2011. According to some people, Chris was in fact Nut's brother, his death hitting Nut seemingly very hard, and he would even get a large CMB tattoo on his chest, as well as several huge diamond chains made in his honor. As already hinted, Bird Gang is also another blood gang, with their members seemingly primarily identifying as the Inglewood families like the ABG, at least according to Atlanta law enforcement. Nut himself would seemingly often rep the gang on social media, throwing up different hand signs associated with that gang. But Nut wasn't just an alleged high-ranking member, but he was also seemingly a successful businessman in the music industry too, who was very close with industry titans like Birdman, posing with him in photos numerous times. Nut also went seemingly way back with the Baton Rouge rap legend Boosie Badass, as well as apparently being close with the pioneer of the modern Atlanta trap sound, Waka Flocka. And of course, Nut was also very close with YFN Lucci, who allegedly shared the same Inglewood family blood gang ties with him. As Nut himself would state, his name held weight, likely both in the streets and in the Atlanta rap industry, where he was part of different music industry ventures, most notably the record label called Think It's a Game, or TIG, which was founded by Nut's friend Gervan Fly Henry, who was one of the most well-known industry players in the Atlanta rap scene, as well as being known and awarded for his philanthropy, and even getting knighted by the city and having an official day named after him. In fact, it would actually be Nut who would introduce YFN Lucci to Henry and landing him his deal with Think It's a Game Records.
And Nut, man, you know, he introduced me to Fly. He was like, man, Fly know, like, man, shout it. It's hard. Like, ain't nobody harder than him, man. He, you know, he want to do it. He love doing it, so he gonna do it, and he gonna listen. So, you know, he a good person, you know, to have in your corner. And Fly, you know, Fly, but that was his man, and he believed in him, and we made it happen.
Lucci and Nut had developed a strong relationship, and Nut would continue praising Lucci early in his career, commenting on his posts how Lucci was about to murder the rap game. Nut would even bring Lucci around his mother from time to time, which Nut's mother would actually speak on from the stand at the eventual YSL trial.
Did your son ever bring Lucci to your house?
Yes.
Did you ever see your son interact with Lucci?
Yes.
Was Lucci one of the artists that your son worked with?
Yes.
I sustain objections to form. You can rephrase.
What was the relationship between your son and Lucci?
Just entertainment, music.
By all accounts, Nut was an instrumental player in getting YFN Lucci into the rap game, and Nut's untimely demise, allegedly caused by members of YSL, would lead to an intense and violent war between Thug and his YSL crew and YFN Lucci and his YFN crew and their affiliates like the ABG. However, there's much more puzzle pieces that would allegedly play key roles in Nut's murder, going far beyond the beef between YSL and YFN. So if you want to know more about that years-long back and forth between those two factions, you can go and watch my deep dive documentary I already did about that whole beef, because with regards to the YSL RICO case, it would actually be another artist whose connections to both Thug and Nut would allegedly be crucial in Nut losing his life, and that person was Rich Homie Quan. Rich Homie Quan, real name DeQuantes Devontae Lamar, was born on October the 4th, 1989, and from a young age, he would show an interest in becoming a musician, even getting a tattoo of a microphone on his body at age 16, stamping the rap game on his skin and setting his intention on making his way in music by any means necessary.
I go to jail, I got a microphone telling me in high school, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't rapping, I was shy though, you know what I'm saying? So I'm in jail, so dude was like, oh, you got that microphone, you don't rap, you don't never be rapping, everybody rapping it, you know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, man. So a dude coming in and told me, I remember like it was yesterday. It was in May, I had been locked up 4 months by then. So he rapping, he got the whole dorm on lock, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, he ain't doing nothing I can't do. So he beat everything, he beat with his hands on the table, but it sounded so, and I was like, man, that's when I really got the herb, man. I'm finna get that on the music, man.
However, before embarking on his musical journey, Quan would initially pursue a career in professional baseball as a way for him to get out of the streets, even receiving a college scholarship based on his talent in the sport. But due to baseball being a majority white sport, apparently Quan knew that it likely wasn't going to work out for him unless he had exceptional talent.
Did you graduate from high school with something like a 3.2 GPA?
Yeah, I graduated from high school with a 3.2 GPA. Yes, sir. Graduated, I had a scholarship to go to Fort Valley University to play baseball, but I didn't, you know what I'm saying, I didn't get a scholarship for academics. My scholarship was for baseball, but with my academics being that, I didn't have to pay for school at all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But...
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but my mind was on rapping though. Like, baseball, cool, but in the back of my mind, I really want to rap. Because as I'm getting older, I'm noticing, like, my favorite players growing up, Sammy Sosa, Andrew Jones, but yeah, they black, but yeah, I hear Andrew Jones talk, bada. Like, what the hell, Andrew Jones, I thought you were black. So as I started getting old, I started realizing like the percentage of black men in the MLB is very small. So then I'm like,
I'm good, but I ain't that good.
He would eventually end up following the college path for a couple of weeks before dropping out due to having to commute a whopping 4 hours to school every day. Quan would then turn to a life of crime in order to make ends meet, and he and some friends would begin breaking into houses when Quan was about 19, stealing televisions and other electronics, while also seemingly dabbling with music, like making a song called Stay Down in 2008 with a rap group called the Stack Money Boys, which had all the essentials of the Atlanta sound at the time, being a highly upbeat party anthem in the style of Roscoe Dash, Travis Porter, and other Atlanta legends from that time period. However, Quan's brief stint in the life of crime came to an abrupt halt after a few months when his crew was caught and Quan was sent to prison. Following his release from prison in February 2011, Quan was determined to turn his newfound passion for music into a full career, and soon he would join an Atlanta rap crew called Loyalty Over Royalties and begun putting out music again. Being part of the crew granted him access to studio sessions and an ability to print mixtapes at a good rate, which was through his friend CEO Teezy. But tragically, Teezy was killed later that year, which would end up discouraging Quan and delaying his plans with music. At this time, Quan was struggling financially, living in the basement of his mother's house, but still keeping himself occupied and recording every day on his mattress. And by April 2012, Quan would be gaining traction with the mixtape I Go In On Every Song, which would eventually end up gaining the attention of Gervin Fly Henry, the head of Think It's a Game Records, who would hear Quan's mixtape in his Fly Kicks shoe store, leading Fly to then end up signing Quan for $19,000, which Quan would receive in $400 installments every week. Quan would then start dropping mixtapes under the label, starting with the tape Still Going In, released in September 2012. This tape would include the single Differences, which now has over 20 million views on YouTube. According to Quan, at this point he was already getting thousands for his shows, but things would really change for him after he would drop Still Going In Reloaded in February 2013, which would include the song Some Type of Way or simply Type of Way. This would be Quan's first mega hit, peaking at number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100 and at number 8 on the Hot Rap Songs chart, becoming a fan favorite. The music video for the song, released in July 2013, now stands at over 300 million views on YouTube, while the song has over 100 million plays on Spotify. But the track resonated beyond the charts, becoming an anthem for the 2013 Michigan State Spartans, a football team that was on fire that year, with the team actually being invited to the 100th annual Rose Bowl, one of the biggest events in college football, and rich Homie Quan would even join them for the celebration. And this was nearly a year before Young Thug would start getting his own Billboard hits, which is often forgotten when discussing the Rich Gang era and the influence that both Quan and Thug had in the group's success. As early as February the 12th, 2013, Thug was well aware of Quan's meteoric rise in the Atlanta rap scene, and he would take to Twitter to hype and tease an upcoming collaboration between Chicago-born and Atlanta-raised Lil Silk and Rich Homie Quan, as well as posting cover art for the song a few days before its release. Thug seemed to be a genuine fan of Quan's music and would respond to a fan that suggested a link-up between him and Quan would be hard with the hashtag facts. But it also made sense for Thug career-wise to align himself with the hottest new prospect in his city, as Thug was still more of an up-and-coming rapper at this point, while Quan's career was going from strength to strength more rapidly. And at the end of 2013, Rolling Stone would even name Quan's Still Going In Reloaded as the 10th best mixtape of the year, and in May 2013, fans of the two rappers would be blessed with their first collaboration, when both featured on Gucci Mane's Trap House 3 album on a song titled Chasing Paper. Gucci being one of the biggest artists to come out of Atlanta trap in history, this was a major look for both artists. Although Gucci at the time was fighting his own demons with drug addiction and mental health issues, eventually landing himself in trouble with the law. But from here, after that Gucci co-sign, going into the summer of 2012, Quan would continue having breakthrough success at national and even international level. In September, he would be featured on the iconic hook of the hit single My N-Word by the California rapper YG alongside Atlanta trap legend Young Jeezy, with the song peaking at number 19 on the Hot 100, and the music video now having over 350 million views on YouTube. The song truly opened doors for Quan to become a global star, charting in 7 countries around the world, even going platinum all the way in Sweden. In November, Thug would post a tweet telling the world that they weren't even ready for the collab that he was about to release with Quan, and later that month, Quan would release another mixtape titled I Promise I Will Never Stop Going In, which would include the song Get the F Out My Face, featuring none other than Young Thug himself. The song wasn't quite the mega hit that Thug was making it out to be, although he would make it part of his live performances, clearly seeing the potential in the duo's collaboration. Thug would also post a vlog on his YouTube channel in November showing him and Quan working on a song together that would eventually be released with the title Time. By the end of 2013, Thug's career too had begun taking off in a major way as well, and Thug's rise would lead to endless speculation about the multi-million-dollar record deals he was courting, and together with Quan, they had truly become the most valuable rookie rappers in all of Atlanta. Meanwhile, Quan's Think It's a Game label, aka TIG, where Big Nut was involved, was doing all-round great business as an indie record label. Meanwhile, Nut would post several pictures of himself and Birdman together on Instagram, along with captions saying that he was with his fellow Blood Gang homie and that people should stay tuned, together with hashtags repping his TIG label, perhaps inferring that he was indeed doing some business in the music industry with the #1 stunner Birdman. Around the same time, Nut would also post a picture of him and Young Thug performing a signature blood handshake at Birdman's condo, showing that these two were also very close. Then, at the end of June, the bomb would drop, as Thug and Quan together, under Birdman's Rich Gang Collective, would drop one of the most iconic trap songs of the 2010s. I'm of course talking about the song Lifestyle. Originally, Birdman's Rich Gang Collective was mainly comprised of rappers who were already signed to his Cash Money Records, and their projects would do relatively poorly despite the very big names being involved in them. But with the Lifestyle song becoming an undeniable hit, peaking at 16 on the Billboard 100 and going certified platinum before the end of the year, even being named as Complex's second best song of the year, today the music video for Lifestyle sits at a mind-boggling almost 700 million views. This was an enormous hit, instantly making Rich Gang synonymous with both Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan. Quan would later reveal that he had actually first met Birdman when he came to his show in Miami, with Birdman then inviting Quan to a studio to play him Lifestyle. Quan actually initially thought that it was Lil Wayne rapping on the track instead of Young Thug, while Birdman would let Quan know that he'd actually been saving the track for him to lay another verse on.
First day I met Baby, came to one of my shows in Miami. He was like, nephew, pull up on me at the studio. I got one I want you to hear. Rightfully so, I pull up to the studio. He hit Spacebar. The rest is history, bro. That song he played, Lifestyle, when I first heard it, I was like, man, who that Wayne? When I first heard Lifestyle, I thought it was Wayne on it. He like, nah, that Thug. I was like, well, what the Thug? I didn't die. I've been had it for. I've been saving it for you, nephew. I swear to God. I swear to God. First time I met Birdman, went straight to the studio, we did Lifestyle. I promise to God. And we were shooting the video 2 days later.
Nut and Fly, the founder of Think It's a Game Records, would also be both present at the video shoot for Lifestyle, with Big Nut himself even making a very short cameo in that video, and he would also promote the song on his own Instagram, repping both Rich Gang and his actual gang set, the Bird Gang, as well as of course the Bloods in the caption. But interestingly, around this same time, the Bird Gang would also begin rocking custom clothing with a logo for their set that was basically a modified version of the Rich Gang logo. But the same day the Lifestyle music video was released, Nut would post a picture on his Instagram hanging out at Birdman's condo, showing that the two were seemingly very much locked in on the Rich Gang project, despite Nut's crew kinda copying their source. But it seemed like things were good between Nut and Birdman, with Nut even seemingly traveling around in Birdman's private jet during this time. In July, Nut would post a photo with Quan saying how much love he had for him while shouting out his Inglewood family gang, accompanied by both Nut and Quan throwing up hand signs associated with that gang. But Quan wasn't the only artist getting love from Think It's a Game Records, because while Rich Gang was becoming one of the biggest things in rap, Nut was already eyeing the label's next talent, this of course being none other than YFN Lucci, whom Nut would shout out on his Instagram, calling him the next big artist coming out of Atlanta, as well as posting a video of a Think It's a Game photo shoot attended by himself, Rich Homie Quan, Lucci, and the label founder Fly, while Lucci would use Twitter to reveal that he and Rich Homie Quan had been recording music together. And in the months that followed, it seemed that things were still cool between Big Nut and Birdman. In August, Nut would promote Birdman's flashy lifestyle vlog episode, tagging both Thug and Birdman in the post, as well as promoting Thug's birthday bash that was to be held at an Atlanta nightclub. And the business meetings with Birdman also seemingly continued, as Nut may well have been acting as both the representative of Rich Homie Quan and Think It's a Game's interests within the Rich Gang collaboration. In September, on the other hand, Nut would proudly promote the Think It's a Game artist during the BET Award weekend, with both Lucci and Quan included in the roster. Later that month, Birdman would officially release the new Rich Gang mixtape titled Rich Gang The Tour Part 1, with the cover art showing a face that was half Young Thug and half Rich Homie Quan. At this point, things appeared to be business as usual, at least on the surface, as Nut was seemingly still cool with Birdman, posting a photo of the two together with both holding Rich Gang themed double cups. But on the streets of Atlanta, things were getting hectic, and the very same day that the Rich Gang tape was released, Rich Homie Quan's father, Corey Lamar, would be at a barbershop where he worked, when a group of men would enter the shop with an apparent mission of robbing the place. Things would quickly escalate into a shootout, during which Quan's father would get shot, ending up in the hospital in critical condition, but fortunately surviving the incident. Think It's a Game label founder Fly would send a statement to XXL the day after the shooting, saying that as far as he knew, the shooting was not gang related, but other sources were providing a different narrative, with one local reporter indicating that the shooting may have been related to a feud between Quan and another rapper. And although the article itself would hardly expand on this theory, the writer may have been referring to lyrics from Quan that some had taken as a diss towards Future, as local TV news would also seemingly indicate this same story, even using a clip from an interview where Quan had addressed this beef.
News Since 4, we're hearing from a man who says he chased the gunman who shot a popular Atlanta rapper's father. Channel 2's Tom Jones now live in Northwest Atlanta, where police say, Tom, that the gunman got away in a black Honda Accord.
Justin, that's right. That's also the description of the car. That witness told me he chased down this road after he heard gunshots coming from Lamar's barbershop. The victim survived the shooting, a shooting many in this community think is connected to the victim's son, Atlanta rapper Rich Homie Quan.
Rich Homie Quan is here.
Atlanta rapper Rich Homie Quan, whose real name is DeQuantis Lamar, is one of the hottest artists around.
I'm a smooth operator.
He's also known for his close relationship with his father, Corey Lamar.
Where your pops at, man?
Yeah, the crib, man, here in Atlanta, man. Cool, man.
Some here at Lamar's barbershop are wondering if an alleged feud between Quan and other rappers led to Corey Lamar being shot 4 times inside his barbershop. Atlanta police say the gunman came in the shop and opened fire.
So I heard about 3 gunshots, and so I saw the guy come out.
Van White says he heard the gunshots, saw the gunman, and chased him, but he got away.
He got in a black car, and that's all I know from there.
One barber told me he went to the back, and another barber said he left the shop. They say that's when the gunman came in. Workers here told me someone shot up the shop about a month ago. I talked to several people who believe the shooting is a result of Quan feuding or disrespecting other rappers and songs. Police wouldn't comment on that and say their investigation continues. But in at least one interview, Rich Homie Quan repeatedly said he isn't feuding with one rapper in question.
I never dissed him. I never disrespected him as a man.
However, during the YSL trial, in a shock turn of events, it would actually turn out to be none other than close affiliate of Young Thug, YSL Woody, who would admit to doing this shooting along with other culprits, saying that he had done it due to his friend called Threat, real name Travante Turner, having problems with Rich Homie Quan.
What happened in Nut got nothing to do with YSL. This excuse me language. This got everything to do with Threat. Know what I mean? I was trying to protect Threat from the get-go. Know what I mean? Threat, and they had some more stuff going on. Like,
was Threat at the gambling house when it got shot up by Kel?
You say nothing I say can be used against me?
That's right.
Me and Threat shot up Rich Homie Quan Dad at the barbershop on Buckhead. I don't know what happened with Threat and Rich Homie Quan, but I'ma ride with my brother. And they was beefing. And yeah, we pulled up and did that.
Okay. And as a result of, why did you and Threat shoot up Rich Homie Quan Daddy's barbershop?
Because I'ma ride with Threat.
Okay. Did Threat tell you why he was shooting?
I don't ask no questions. I just say let go.
Threat would end up being killed in June 2024, taking his version of the events that day to the grave with him. But regardless of what was going on in the streets, on the music side, everything continued as if nothing was happening. And in October, Rich Gang would drop another hit, the song Tell 'Em, together with a music video showing Quan, Thug, and Birdman living the lavish tour life, accompanied by fancy cars, tons of liquor, and scantily clad women, with the music video now standing at over 55 million views. Also in October, Nut was riding on a high of his own, announcing the birth of his daughter Kaylin on Instagram, and his relationship with Birdman and the whole Rich Crew at least seemed better than ever, with a new vlog from the group dropping in November, where we would see that already mentioned clip of Thug introducing Nut to the camera as one of the biggest bloods in America.
I got one of the biggest bloods in America with me, my you did, Atlanta, Georgia. You get what I'm trying to tell you? That we go.
This was followed later in November by another Rich Gang song and music video titled Freestyle, where Nut can even be seen making a cameo greeting Quan with a gang handshake at the beginning of the video before he begins his verse. The following month in December, Nut would make a cryptic post seemingly announcing the start of a new business venture called Big Business Entertainment, which he would accompany with a caption saying how he was done with the small talk, from now on everything was going to be big, together with hashtags repping both the Think It's a Game label and Rich Gang. On a separate note, Lucci's career was also thriving at this time, as he would release his first mixtape under the Think It's a Game label in mid-December titled Wish Me Well, a project which would also include a feature from his label mate Rich Homie Quan on the song Exactly How It Was, which would eventually also get a music video about a year later. But unfortunately, within a month of this collaboration, they would end up losing the very person who had played a pivotal role in launching both of their careers, as in early January, Nut would post another picture of him and Birdman chilling at Birdman's condo, although based on the caption, it seemed that this was an old picture taken in the summertime, not January. Interestingly, according to the YSL indictment, the very next day, Thug and D would post a photo together with the caption, "We ain't going back and forth," which the prosecution would consider to be an overt act in furtherance of the gang conspiracy when it came to the trial. This seemingly indicated that the authorities thought that this post was addressing Nut in particular, and a few days later, Thug would allegedly rent an Infiniti Q50 sedan from Hertz, handing it over to his YSL goons. And only 3 days after that, on January the 10th, 2015, whatever had been taking place behind the scenes was about to come to a tragic conclusion. It was approximately 8:45 p.m. when Nut was in front of the Hair Unlimited barbershop on McDaniel Street in the Castleberry neighborhood. He was conversing with a group of people when the Infiniti Q50 that Thug had rented would allegedly drive past them, which according to prosecutors had 5 men inside. Javaris Bradford aka Tudor, Justin Cobb aka Doo-Wop, Diamante Kendrick aka Yak Gotti, Demise McMullen aka Nard, and Shannon Stillwell aka SB, with someone inside the car opening fire and hitting 3 people, 1 juvenile and 2 adults, one of these being Big Nut himself, with security cameras even capturing the events from both outside and inside the barbershop, showing adults and kids ducking and running for cover as the chaos unfolded. Nut would receive several shots to his upper body and would be rushed to the Grady Memorial Hospital, where he would sadly pass away at just 26 years old.
Triple shooting, and one of the victims is a teenager. The shooting happened outside a barber shop, and tonight one victim is clinging to life. Channel 2's Jessica Jaglois is live at the scene where there's still a very heavy police presence. Jessica.
As you can see behind me, there is still quite the active scene here in southwest Atlanta. McDaniel Street is still closed, and it has been for more than 3 hours. That's because there are shell casings up and down the street. Now, I'm told one of the men who was shot, a man in his mid-20s, is in critical condition, but that his status could change for the worse overnight.
It appears that they were the intended target, but again, I'm not sure the reason of the shooting.
Atlanta police are investigating why 2 men in their mid-20s and a 14-year-old boy were shot outside of a barber shop in southwest Atlanta Saturday night.
Right now, it doesn't appear that they had anything connection to the business. They were just kind of hanging out, is what we appear.
Investigators say it appears to have been a drive-by shooting, and according to several witnesses we spoke with, an automatic weapon was used.
The search is on for the person who shot 3 people, including a 14-year-old. 1 man died. Channel 2 Steve Gelbach is live at Grady Memorial Hospital. Steve, investigators say they don't have a motive, but they don't believe this shooting was random.
I did hear back from Atlanta police in the last half hour by email. Said there's really not an update on this case yet, but they do confirm it is a homicide investigation. All 3 victims, including a 14-year-old, were brought here to Grady Memorial Hospital, and 26-year-old Donovan Thomas was in the most serious condition, and the medical examiner's office confirmed he did not survive.
Later during the YSL trial, the prosecutors would show numerous crime scene photos showing the aftermath, with Nut's Chevy Tahoe riddled with bullets and numerous shell casing markers scattered across the crime scene.
I'll also show you what's been admitted as Exhibit 12Y, 27Y, 26Y, 218Y, 174Y, 193Y, and 221Y.
Following Nut's death, the whole city of Atlanta would seemingly pay tribute to him, with billboards in his memory appearing everywhere, including at Club Crucial, where YSL Woody had apparently gotten into an altercation with Nut's brother only days before his death. Meanwhile, Nut's family would take over his Instagram, using it to honor his memory, and artists close to Nut would also pay their respects, like YFN Lucci, who would post a video to Facebook mourning the loss of his good friend.
Yeah, man, shit working, man. Yeah, just hot out of this big right here, though. Got my man's working. We working, man. Big Bentley shit. YFNBC, long live Nut forever.
Lucci would later even memorialize Nut by naming his 2017 mixtape Long Live Nut, as well as speaking in interviews about how Nut had been the one who put him on in the rap game.
Well, yeah, I said a lot of stuff different from back then, because, you know, I lost one of my homies who really got me on. You know, long live Nut forever. Yeah, Nut got me on, so.
Birdman 2 would pay homage to Nut after his passing, posting a picture of the two on Instagram with a caption calling Nut a solid guy who would never be forgotten. According to the DA Fanny Willis, the murder of Nut would begin a years-long bloody back and forth between YSL and YFN, which may have led to as many as 50 shootings, and, according to the former Fulton County DA Paul Howard, already in 2017 had led to 4 retaliatory murders. But in the immediate aftermath of the murder, it wouldn't ultimately take long for the authorities to get an idea of just who might have been behind the hit, as already the following day, none other than YSL Woody would find himself in police custody, as the police had allegedly been hearing rumors that he was actually behind the murder, so they wanted to interview him straight away, as he would later recall in the YSL trial.
Now, Mr. Copeland, I want to direct your attention to Saturday, January 10th, 2015, the night that Donovan Thomas was killed. I want you to go back to that day before Donovan Thomas got killed. I want you to tell the jurors what you remember.
I remember getting a call saying that I killed Nut.
that you killed Nut?
The word was, I got a call and people were saying that, am I okay? They saying I killed Nut. He asked me what I got going on, or if I heard what happened, or I don't know what he said. I just know he said that, you know what I mean, people saying that I killed Nut, and he would call it.
Now let me ask you this, did you kill Nut?
No.
Did you ever see the police about Nut being killed?
Yeah, the police called.
During the interview, Woody discussed an ongoing conflict that he and Thug had with a man named Shell Kell, or Kel, real name Kelvin Watts, who was the brother of Big Nut, sort of, as the father of Shell Kell's brother from his mother's side, called Greedy, is also the father of Nut, and they all seemingly grew up together.
What made you want to pull you into this situation that happened? Okay. Me and Kel, you know what I'm saying? Me and him, we had a problem in the club. Is that him? No, this Nut. Okay. Kel, they say this the little brother, but I thought they were just saying that, but they say they're real brothers. Kel, K-E-L, Kel, okay. Okay, go ahead, little brother of Nut, yes. Who you identified from the picture, which is Dominic Thomas. Yes, okay, go ahead. Me and him got into it in the club push. What day was that? It's just like every like it's a lot. Okay. So 2 months, 3 months, a year, how long? Yeah, about I'm saying no longer than 4 months. 4 months. So every time y'all be at Club Crucial, y'all see each other, y'all get into it. We don't even fight, we don't do none of that. The only time I fight was the last time. Okay, so what was that? Monday we just passed. Monday.
In an attempt to end the beef, Woody would approach Kel at Club Crucial in Atlanta, with the two exchanging words, before Kel would then approach Thug and also speak to him.
All the time we get into that club, you know what I mean? They shoot birds at us, we shoot back at them. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, we go outside. Don't go on that, don't go about to fight, don't go about to snap. You know what I'm saying? Everybody just go outside. We leave. This every time we got to the club. But last Monday, we in the club. But this case came in, it was Monday. I think it was Sunday before the Monday. But it's Sunday, it was the Sunday before that week. Me and Kel, I seen Kel outside. So I'm like, hey Kel, how did you? So as me and Kel standing right there, we talking. We talking about everything we gotta get each other. So as we talk, we like, it's over. They challenged him COVID. So we like, it's over, we ain't beefing no more. So Kel like, alright, but he wanna talk to Thug and see what Thug has to do with it. So like, man, Thug ain't standing there jump up, you know what I'm saying? He ain't into this. So he like, alright, we wanna talk. So him and Thug talk. Whatever said there, I don't know.
The following night, Woody said that he returned to the club and begun flexing money, but that's when Kel and a group of his guys would approach and begin assaulting him, attempting to rob him for his cash.
Monday come, I'm in Kush. As I go to Kush, I pull out my money. I'm on stage, I'm flashing my money to all the girls standing around. I'm flashing money. So I get on the stage, I'm flashing money. Kel, and this whole walk up on me. So I look at him, he's like, what's up, bro? I'm like, what's going on, y'all? And he ain't saying that, so he just looked at me, so I'm still flashing money. I'm laughing, I'm playing with everybody. So he's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, what's up, bro? He's like, Thug still want to pay for the window. Like, I guess so, bro. But he in the club, like, go talk to him. You know what I'm saying? So Kel, like, he took his necklace, he put his necklace inside. So I look at it, I put money in my pocket. So when I put money in my pocket, I walked out. You know what I mean? I walk over here. I look at him. So he turned around, he tells somebody something in the ear. So I walked towards the kitchen. When I walked towards the kitchen, all of them walked behind. I was by myself. So when I get to the kitchen, I seen everybody walk behind. I tried to turn around and go back to the stage. Kel punched me in the back of the head. So he punched me in the back of the head. They pushed me to the ground, He tried to go in my pocket and get my money. But as I hold on to my money, the other guy punched me all in the face. But I didn't care, I was holding on to the money. So as they punched me, I get out of it, I run.
He would then go on to explain how the opposing blood set, this perhaps referring to the Bird Gang or the Inglewood family in general, would have a meeting about him and Thug the day before Nut's death, where plans were apparently drawn up for Woody and Thug to be murdered.
Friday, they have a meeting. the meeting, like it was a blood meeting, and the meeting was about me and Thug. You and Thug, me and Young Thug. But the whole time, I'm telling him like, what Thug got to do with this, bro? Young Thug was just talking. Young Thug, the rapper. I'm like, what he got to do with this? You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking to him. Like, he with you. I'm like, bro, it ain't no beef, bro. Like, I ain't saying y'all niggas, y'all really, you know, don't pay me no attention. I'll pay y'all no attention. No, I listen, man. But there was a guy that was at me. Said that was the guy down the road, Mo. He was supposed to say, kill me and Young Thug. So I asked, I got 10 minutes on my phone. I text my phone like, hey, bro, y'all gonna kill me and Thug? I said, let's say, like, ha, ha, ha. And he like, bro, what you talking about? Like, ain't that like they said? So another guy talking like, ain't that like they said? I'm like, okay, they just lying. He like, yeah. So next thing you know,
Woody would then explain how his rivals would start shooting at the gambling house that he would regularly attend.
it's a gambling house. I used to be in. And we used to gamble now. It's over there in Lakewood. They go to stand on top of the roof and shoot inside. So they stand on the roof shooting inside the building. And then they leave. So they tell everybody to cartel or whatever.
With these back and forths then allegedly escalating to the eventual full-blown murder of Big Nut before he had a chance to take out Thug and Woody. But Woody himself would claim that he had been at his girlfriend's house when this incident occurred, an alibi that would suggest that he at least didn't pull the trigger. But Woody would state openly during the YSL trial that when he woke up the morning after Nut's death, people were already accusing him of the murder.
I got in town to Rick. I had called D. Like, where you get, bro? Like, you on Cleveland. I'm around to pull up. So I ride on Cleveland. When I get right up by McDonald's on Cleveland, let people like, but they say Nut got killed, bro. I'm for real, bro. But I really just think you just talking. Like, for real, bro. Like, yeah, so I'm like, dang. So I like, what happened? He like, boy, he did come and said. So I'm like, damn, bro, you gonna say I did this first time? I'm like, damn, you don't say I did, bro. He like, before no, you ain't do it. So I'm like, he like, he don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right. So as I leave there, Moto come like, oh, you know, they talked to my me and him, shot them on Nut, Moto. They like, they said me and him did. You got know from Moto? Yeah, Moonk.
During the YSL trial, however, Woody would pretty much categorically deny anything that he had told the police during previous interrogations being true. Therefore, it's hard to know what to believe when it comes to his stories, and YSL Woody is not a very reliable narrator in any kind of scenario. But law enforcement, on the other hand, would lay out their theory of what had happened in a 2016 affidavit for a search warrant regarding items that they had discovered during a 2015 arrest of Young Thug in relation to the investigation into the murder of Big Nut. According to the police, they had first learned about an ongoing dispute between Thug's YSL and Big Nut's Inglewood family gang in November 2014. They would also claim that Shannon Jackson, aka Shannon Stillwell, aka SB, was the one to have pulled the trigger in the murder of Big Nut, aka Donovan Thomas, and that it was the January 5th altercation at Club Crucial between Shell Kel and Lil Woody which would be the ultimate catalyst for the murder of Nut, which was followed by dozens of retaliatory shootings between YSL and the Inglewood family's gangs. This even included a shooting of Lil Woody's girlfriend's parents' house immediately on the same night of Big Nut's murder. For whatever it's worth, Woody would also allege to the police that Demekion Garlington, aka D, had told him right after the murder that Jackson, aka SB, Kendrick, aka Yak Gotti, McMullen, aka Nard, and Cobb, aka Doo-Wop, had indeed killed Nut. And, most incriminating for Young Thug himself, Woody would also say that D had told him that it was Thug who personally handed them the car after they spotted Nut in front of the barbershop. The police also claimed that McMullen, aka Nard, called Thug's number only minutes after they had allegedly killed Nut. Moreover, already in 2016, the police were also aware of the possibility that the murder was linked to a beef between Nut and Young Thug all over rich Homie Quan's career, and that Nut had become increasingly concerned over his safety in the lead up to his murder, believing that Thug and his associates could be willing to hurt him over this beef, with the wildest claim in the affidavit being that Nut's last word had actually been, "Thug had me killed," which he allegedly said to his brother right before passing away. However, during the YSL trial, the prosecution would no longer claim that such words had ever been uttered.
And it's hearsay. Kenneth Copeland says that he has heard, or people are saying, that Donovan Thomas in his dying breath was saying, "Thug did this to me," or something to that effect. People that were actually at the scene for Donovan Thomas's last breath have said that that was not said. Sammy Davis took the stand and talked about what had happened there, and that's just street rumor being put out there by Kenneth Copeland.
Let me put some things in context. So when Mr. Copeland is talking about this particular portion, he's actually trying to say, I don't think that all this was said.
because he talks about what happened when DB died and how much time it took for him to get to the hospital. So what he actually says is, now how do you know he got shot 4 times in the chest? You know what else they said? They said that they were holding Nut, and Nut said, I ain't gonna make it, bro. Well, that came out in evidence, because I believe that is what one of the barbershop witnesses said, that he did hear him say, I ain't gonna make it, bro. Now, the part that the state will redact, because that has not come into evidence, is that Copeland says they said that Nut said Thug ass had something to do with it. We will exclude that portion because we don't believe that has come into evidence.
On the other hand, Redditors and online detectives have come up with their own theories, many of these placing the blame for Nut's murder firmly on YSL Woody, while others would speculate specifically on what the actual motive was for the murder, with many wild theories claiming that Nut had actually stolen from Birdman or that he'd even slapped Young Thug's sister. Conversely, the rap industry OG, JT the Bigger Figure, who used to work with Nut and the Rich Gang, would years later tell his story, implying that Nut was indeed killed due to a dispute between Rich Homie Quan's management, this including Nut, and Birdman's Rich Gang, including Thug, who wanted to sign Quan for themselves.
Before me and Nut came together, me and Thug came together, but me and Nut was already, you know, networking. But I'm not no Crip or no Blood, you know what I mean? And then Birdman came to town, and then Birdman put up the money for that Lifestyle song in the video with him and Rich Homie Quan. Boom, the Rich Gang, new Rich Gang started. Nut was Quan. But he was cool with Thug. But he had power over Quan. And then disputes came. Once the disputes came, it wasn't good business no more. The hate and the jealousy. Birdman want Quan to bow down, come up under the Rich Gang. And Nut was like, no, not finna sign that 360 deal, be a broke rapper up under Birdman. Sorry about that. True story. So where did that leave me at? I chose sides with Nut. But before the murder, I was the that was still with Birdman and Thug that could tell Nut this was happening over here. And that Pee-wee start hating because put up all the money while Thug was up under up under the Rich Gang. He accepted my racks, my 30 bands. We did 7 songs and did some video footage. Photo shoot, but before I could drop it, the murder happened. Now the beef is on.
Whatever may have been the motive behind Nut's murder, 15 days after his death, Young Thug would allegedly have a conversation with Kyle Ory, also known as Nasty New, the alleged leader of the Money Murder Bloods, who's currently serving a life sentence for unrelated RICO charges. During the exchange, one of the two, likely Ory, would reportedly state how sacrifices must be made and soldiers must fall for the battle to be won. Indeed, following Nut's murder, a big rift emerged between the Bloods in Atlanta, with the ABG gang, affiliated with Nut and Lucci, seemingly dropping all association with Money Murder, siding instead completely with the Inglewood family that Nut had been repping. But on the rap side, Rich Homie Quan's relationship with Thug would famously decline from here on out. But for the moment, Quan would at least keep making major moves in the industry as a solo artist, dropping the song Flex almost exactly 1 month after Nut's death. This song becoming his biggest solo hit, peaking at number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. In the months and years following Nut's death, people would repeatedly ask Quan in interviews about what had happened between him and the Rich Gang, but Quan would typically deny having ever even been officially part of the group, and saying how he simply wanted to focus on his solo career.
Now, what happened with Rich Gang?
Yeah, Rich Gang, like I said, we really just like, we did the first mixtape, you know what I mean? And that was just like a mixtape. We were never in a group, you know what I mean? It was just like, you know what I mean? Bird, you know, we all feeling ourselves, Thug, you know what I mean? And it's just like, did that, so man, now we can focus more on our solo career. Like, it's still family there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's no bad blood there, man. It's just like,
everything calm.
I came in as a solo artist, so did Thug, so did Bird. That was like a collaboration.
Yes.
And now, like, you know, man, Thug doing good, much success to him. Bird still making plays, much success to him.
Exactly.
And I'm doing damn good, so much success to my goddamn self.
For real. And everything calm and everything love.
Everything, that's all, man. Everything love, man. No problems, man. I have been focusing more on myself. I've stepped away from the Rich Gang a little bit just to get back to corn. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool for the moment, but
yeah, it's really a moment thing. Like, don't get lost in that sauce.
Yeah. Now, the last time we did an interview, you were down Rich Gang.
Yeah, well, I wasn't.
Now, seems like not so much.
Well, for one, like, it was just great collaborative music. Like, I was never just Rich Gang. It's just, we were just all solo artists, you know, working on a project together. You know what I mean? I never signed any paperwork. You feel me? I came in, Rich Homie Quan, and that's the way I wanted to leave, man. Despite how much good music we did, all that, you know what I mean? I still want to just always do my own thing. You know what I mean? I just didn't never want nobody to feel as if like, to say, yeah, well, you know, I did this for Quan and, you know, Quan the reason, nah. I want to always just be like, yeah, man, I did this because I wanted to do it. You feel me? Nah, but they even like go back to the Rich Gang. That was a fun time in my life. Like we made some great music. You know what I mean? Even now, like, man, I don't got no bad blood with Thug, no bird. You know what I mean? I think we're all in a great place in our life, man, and that's what it's about.
In April 2015, Quan would release the mixtape If You Ever Think I'll Stop Going In, RR. But this project would fail to even chart, and for the next couple years, Quan would fall back from music. And tragically, with his friend Nut no longer around, he would seemingly also fall out with Think It's a Game Records, eventually suing them for $2 million in unpaid royalties, this case ultimately getting settled out of court. Meanwhile, Thug 2 would be asked about Quan's departure from Rich Gang, to which he would simply respond by saying that Quan just had to focus on his career.
Do you have any feelings on the Rich Homie thing, him possibly leaving?
No, he had to focus on his career.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that he had to do. He didn't have to do it, but he did it.
Yeah.
However, some years later, Thug would provide a much more cryptic response, first telling Big Boy that the two men had no issues with each other, but then implying that things had happened behind the scenes that had soured their relationship for good.
What's the relationship with Quan, with Rich Homie?
No, we don't have no problem.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we can be like how we used to be.
Right.
He already just did some bull. He already know my heart, so it's like, I'm too pure. So once you do that, it's like, no. I forgive. I always forgive. If I kill a person, I pray to God that He forgive me. If I do something to a person, I pray I get forgiveness. So I always forgive. I don't ever hold grudges on nobody. I forgive everybody.
But on the shallow end, you know how people want more music and people want to put y'all together. You don't see that happening.
No.
Right.
Because it'll be just...
It's more personal simple. As opposed to...
Yeah, it's nothing about music. It's 100% personal. Like, this was my brother.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro. Now it's like, man, you probably can't never get the blessing of having me on the song, and I can never get the blessing of having you on the song again.
Damn. And as you say that to us, I don't know what you're talking about, but Quan, he know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. He did a show before, and I think a guy had touched his leg on the stage, like a fan was like, yo, he was standing on the end of the stage and people was touching him, grabbing his shoes, and he was like, yo, I ain't with that, ain't with that thug. And it's just like, damn, you my brother, like, got your name tattooed on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the f you doing? So it's just like, it's like that. Like, I forgive him because I know he really be drunk. Quan get drunk.
Damn.
He get drunk to the point where I have to carry him out the club. Like, so I know for a fact he was drunk, but it's like...
However, in July 2023, the YouTuber and snitch exposer 1090 Jake would provide evidence about what had really happened behind the scenes, showing the world police interview footage of Quan talking to detectives about the murder of Nut, and essentially admitting that everyone in the streets knew that Thug had something to do with Nut's murder, but they just couldn't prove it.
Everybody been talking about it. I'm gonna just be a man and answer myself.
Right.
It's crazy, man. We just can't prove. Right. Point blank period. I ain't no rat, I ain't telling no. I'm just being real with y'all. I got how much I love Nut, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, real.
Hip-hop's top commentator DJ Academics would also share his opinion about the events, saying how Nut's murder had essentially ended Quan's career.
Rich Homie Quan is with some street over this side. Young Thug is calling shots and doing his thing over here. When there is now bloodshed, everybody got to go to their corner. You can't still be like, oh, nah, we're just doing some music together. It's over at that point. It's officially over. His career as an artist is essentially up because he could no longer to Thug. Tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. We didn't see any more public appearances with them. Rich Homie Quan, rather than run to the net and explain to the fans, yo, this homie's killed my man. He didn't say it. Obviously, Rich Homie Quan didn't say that. He just kind of fell back and just acted like, oh, no, I'm a solo artist. He kept it really street. Because what happened after Donovan Nut Thomas gets killed, mad shooting start happening. Remember, Rich Homie Quan was signed to Think It's a Game Entertainment. Who was his label mate? YFN Lucci. Those Inglewood Mafia people, or Inglewood family people, that's Rich Homie Quan's gang. After Donovan Nut Thomas gets killed, mad things happen. I think the police even say like dozens of things happen, And they realized to properly investigate those shootings, they got to go to the origin. And the origin is Donovan Nut Thomas dying.
For Young Thug, on the other hand, the years following Nut's death brought nothing but success, and over the next few years, he would embark on a creative run of success that most rappers can only dream of, dropping classic project after classic project, and in the span of just 7 years, building up a legendary legacy as both a rapper and a fashion icon. But every step of the way, the authorities in Atlanta were watching out for clues, and building a case to try and take Young Thug down, right when he was about to reach the very pinnacle of his career. And for Young Thug, prolific self-snitcher on the microphone, there was certainly no shortage of self-incriminating lyrics to help those feds piece things together. Despite the murder of his rival Big Nut, ongoing gang violence, and legal troubles from 2015 onward, Young Thug's music career not only continued to flourish, but also propelled him on a trajectory that would ultimately see him reach the top of the game, eventually being hailed as the most influential rapper of the 21st century by BBC in 2019, praised as one of the most influential moguls in modern rap by New Musical Express in 2021, and classified as an icon by Complex in the same year. He would even be considered as one of the greatest rappers of all time by Hot New Hip Hop by 2022. But behind the scenes, it would seem that Young Thug's street ties were impacting his career in the industry in unexpected ways. In December 2014, Young Thug had featured with Nicki Minaj on Atlanta pop sensation's Ray Sremmerd's album Throw Some Mo, which would end up peaking at number 30 on the Billboard 100. The track set a new record for Thug, who by this point was officially one of the biggest players in the rap industry. Interestingly, however, it seemed that Thug's desire to work with Lil Wayne and his Young Money collective had become a twisted fantasy of either becoming or killing Lil Wayne, as early in March 2014, during a DJ Who Kid interview, Thug would announce that he would be naming his debut album The Carter 6. This of course being a reference to Lil Wayne's long-running 5-part album series called The Carter, with Thug saying that he would be releasing The Carter 6 instead of Wayne, because he's the only one who can make music at that level, and that he's big enough to carry the torch from Lil Wayne, who announced his retirement would be following The Carter 5, with Thug ending by saying that he was coming for Wayne.
You got a title for your new album coming out? Your future album?
Yeah, Carter 6.
Oh, it's Carter 6?
Yeah.
Nah, Carter also?
Yeah.
You and Lil Wayne is coming out, or explain that to me?
Nah, I just feel like I'm that big.
Wow.
Cause he feel like after the Carter 5, he ain't gonna make no more music. Cause he feel like can't nobody make no music like that.
Oh, okay.
He said, "What's the name of your album if you drop one?" Carter 6.
Yo, that is crazy.
I'm going straight at it.
Yo, man.
Still, Thug would give Wayne his flowers, listing him as one of his biggest influences. And listening to the first conversation where this was mentioned, it's possible that this was just trolling or an off-the-cuff, trying to be funny response from Thug. But things would be taken very seriously, and this comment made a huge splash. Joke or not, the timing of this was pretty savage too, because later that year, Lil Wayne revealed that he was disputing his deal with Birdman and Cash Money Records, and couldn't drop music, with Wayne later filing a $51 million lawsuit against his former mentor and label. During this time, Thug had become incredibly close to Birdman and arguably was taking Wayne's spot, not just musically, but taking his mentor for himself too. It seemed that the industry was supporting Young Thug's super trolling too, with a tweet from 300 Entertainment in March 2015 confirming that Young Thug would indeed be releasing The Carter 6 soon. Even Lil Wayne's daughter would tweet about this, calling it childish and saying that Thug would never be on her father's level. But Thug wasn't letting up, and he would tease a cover art for Carter 6 that depicted him naked on a spotlight with a blood bandana on. This prompted Wayne to extensively diss Rich Gang and Young Thug on stage at 2 shows.
If y'all ever have Rich Gang or whoever it is in this, y'all let them know I said. And stop listening to songs that pose naked on their now.
Soon after this, in April of 2015, Thug would reveal that he was forced to change the title of the album from Carter 6 to Barter 6, in a slick move that replaced the C with a B in reference to the Blood Gang. This was followed by Thug announcing the change, as well as a show in Wayne's hometown of New Orleans, where he said that he would be there with his shooters. A KG Young Thug would also be interviewed by All Hip Hop TV at a release event for Barter 6, denying that there was a beef and claiming that he was just playing homage to Wayne all along.
The Carter 6 becoming the Barter 6, why were you so adamant on the Carter 6? Like, what if Wayne wanted to drop it? What was your true feelings behind doing that?
What was my true feeling about what? Changing the name of the album?
Not changing the name, I think taking on the Carter 6 initially, just in general.
What's my what?
What was your intention, I guess, with naming it the Carter 6 in the first place? Like, why were you so adamant about the name?
Like, it's like, man, that's the person I look up to.
Okay, cool. So it was no beef, because everybody takes it as like maybe a shot at him, but for you it's homage?
No, it's no beef.
Eventually, on April the 17th, 2015, Young Thug released Barter 6 officially, and despite the controversy, the project was a huge success. It debuted at number 22 on the Billboard 200, becoming the first of many entries on the albums chart for Thug, and the project was met with praise as Pitchfork gave it rave reviews and a grade of 8.4, a big improvement for Thug critically. Released under 300 Entertainment, the project featured hits like Check, which peaked at 100 on the Billboard charts, as well as the song Halftime. On Check, Thug raps about how people are so fake that he has to keep a gun on him at all times, while also giving a special shout out to Birdman. And on the track Halftime, there was more gangster imagery, with Thug rapping how if people try and rob him, then his gun will chop them in half, and how he leaves his ops outlined in chalk. Thug would also shout out YSL Woody, saying that if anyone tries him, he'll be sending Woody to shoot at their head, perhaps a reference to what the streets were saying that Woody had actually done to Big Nut. But interestingly, in an interview with DJU, YSL Woody would actually say that this lyric was stupid of Thug as he felt it brought unnecessary attention to his name at the time.
How big was it, like, when Young Thug dropped your name in a song on the halftime song? You know, Lil Woody. Like, how big was that for you? Like was that like crazy? Like, you know?
It was stupid.
Thug was also speaking spicy elsewhere on the project, rapping on the opening track constantly hating that his crew have a lot of bodies, while on the hook suggesting that the feds were actively looking into him. And on the second track, with that, Thug raps all about putting $100,000 on his ops' heads. Then on the song Dream, this had a feature from Yak Gotti, who would himself claim to have a lot of bodies, something that he would later be accused of at trial, and vowing to never snitch if he ever gets arrested, and calling YSL the mob. In the song Amazing, Thug mentions Hertz Rent-A-Cars, the very company that was used to rent the car that was used in Nut's murder. And track 10 is titled Knocked Off, very obviously a reference to having people killed, with Thug bragging about how he can pull some strings and have someone taken out, going on to name all of the scenarios in which he might have someone killed, saying that he'll have someone killed in exchange for a double-sealed pint of cough syrup, or even having someone killed while pulling off a scam, or for trying to get into his gang. In another suspect lyric, Thug is talking about a girl, saying that if she wants that nut, Thug will blast her with a shot of his own brand Thug sauce. But this also could have a double-coded message that if a girl messes with Thug's ops, like Nut, she's gonna get shot, just like Big Nut did. On the track Numbers, Thug would boast about guys in Atlanta having guns and being willing to kill their ops, with one lyric even saying that he wants to kill people and see the tears of their mothers. Ultimately, however, Barter 6 with its new title would still get under Lil Wayne's skin, with Wayne taking to the stage to diss Thug after its release.
If there were any other albums that dropped recently, tell them I say suck my ain't no mother such thing as Carter 6. You let them know Tunchi says suck my.
Then, on April the 21st, 2015, Thug would make an Instagram post saying that he would be performing in New Orleans, Lil Wayne's home city, and that he would be bringing guns with him, with the video ending having the camera panning to Pee Wee Roscoe, who's holding a firearm.
First show, New Orleans, Holly Grove. Meet me down, better yet, beat me down, you did. With them two. Yeah.
On April the 26th, 2015, things would escalate to a whole new level as Thug performed a show at the Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Lil Wayne's home state. And coincidentally, on the very same night, Lil Wayne was actually performing at a nightclub called The Compound in Thug's hometown of Atlanta. The show in Louisiana would end poorly for Thug, who received a terrible reception from the natives who were clearly loyal to Lil Wayne. In a video posted by College Kid, you can see that the crowd was shouting for Lil Wayne, and Thug was eventually booed and heckled and yelled off stage. At this point, Thug's road manager and friend from the streets of Atlanta, Pee Wee Roscoe, who was still in Atlanta at the time, drives to the Compound nightclub with other Blood Gang members. At the venue, there's an altercation, and Pee Wee is allegedly heard shouting, "This is my city," and that he would spray up Lil Wayne's tour bus. And as the local news would report, that is exactly what happened next.
The two buses belonging to the entourage for rapper Lil Wayne came under gunfire. Prosecutors say a simmering rap feud and gang tensions led to it. They believe they could pin Winfrey as the gunman. He was indicted on 27 counts, including a rarely, if ever, used charge that references domestic terrorism.
Yes, Pee Wee Roscoe allegedly pulled up alongside the tour bus and let off shots, but fortunately, nobody from Lil Wayne's entourage was hurt. And while Roscoe was ultimately arrested and charged for the crime, Young Thug and Birdman faced no charges despite being mentioned by name in the indictment, including a suggestion that Roscoe was actually on the phone with Thug himself when he was chasing Wayne's tour bus. Now, this conviction was later overturned as the trial judge had improperly encouraged Winfrey to take a guilty plea, but Thug himself would never be formally implicated in the crime, as Fox 5 Atlanta News would report. report on.
Well, all new at 5, the state's highest court has reversed convictions for the man who pleaded guilty to shooting at rapper Lil Wayne's tour bus. Back in 2015, prosecutors say Jimmy Winfrey opened fire on 2 of Lil Wayne's tour buses as they drove down 285. No one was hurt, and as part of the plea deal, a judge sentenced Winfrey to 10 years behind bars. Well, today, the state Supreme Court decided the trial judge in that case improperly participated in plea negotiations by encouraging Winfrey to take the plea deal. The court says that made the plea involuntary.
But the reality was that after the murder of Nut and what appeared to be an attempted murder of Lil Wayne and his entourage, getting on the wrong side of Young Thug could be deadly, and nobody in the industry was safe. And despite the danger around him, Young Thug was getting endless opportunities and was continuing to rise above the destruction going on around him. On the 7th of July 2015, Young Thug would be at the Perimeter Mall in Sandy Springs, Georgia, where following an altercation with security began escorting him out the premises. Thug's alleged response would be a threat to shoot the director of security in the face. The police would be called and they'd arrive shortly after, when Thug had already left, after which a warrant was issued for his arrest for the charge of issuing terroristic threats, basically threats that were meant to terrorize another person. Thug would be arrested for this on the next day, the 8th of July 2015, and this incident would eventually be listed within the indictment as furtherance of the conspiracy of YSL the criminal street gang. On September the 16th, 2015, Thug would drop Slime Season, the first installment of an ongoing Slime Season mixtape series, a name which he had taken from his former friend Ola Plea, who had released his Slime Season tape the previous year. Thug's Slime Season featured notable tracks like Power and Best Friend, the latter of which became a viral hit, partly thanks to its memorable music video, and ended up landing at 45 on the Billboard charts. Interestingly, in Best Friend, Thug actually starts the track with an aggressive shout-out to his gang, YSL, proving that even at this point in his career, in the same year as the murder of Nut and attempted murder on Lil Wayne, Thug wasn't shy about repping his gang affiliations in his songs. Slime Season would further cement Thug's dominance in the mixtape circuit, earning critical acclaim and millions of streams, even getting a respectable 7.6 score from Pitchfork, and Thug would waste no time following it up, as within a month and a half, on October the 31st, 2015, Thug would drop Slime Season Part 2, the sequel to Slime Season, which showcased Thug's versatility and work ethic, with standout tracks like Thief in the Night featuring Trouble. The project was met with more positive reviews, like a 7.9 rating from Pitchfork, which only boosted Thug's momentum in the industry. Moving into the new year, on January the 26th, 2016, Thug is interviewed on Sway in the Morning, and when asked, he would proudly proclaim how he had really came from the streets, even admitting that he's been shot and people have been shot back.
Where did you come from? Like, what is your background? Like,
man.
Okay, what's the man? You got, hey, Thug, you gotta, you know, well, you
man, we came from the streets. Okay. I'm talking about like goddamn, Harlem 55th, whatever they, you know, all the weirdest parts in the world. You know, we came from straight. You know, I don't got shot. You know, everything that happened, it don't been both ways. I came from the struggle for real. I ain't, you know, I don't really know nothing about the spoons, the silver ones. You know what I'm saying? They silver and gold now, though, you know.
Yeah.
But I ain't come from those.
Thug really didn't have a care in the world with regards to self-snitching, and he seemed to have a deep desire to let everybody know his street credentials. And moving into 2016, Thug would continue dropping iconic music, when on the 5th of February 2016, he would release I'm Up, a surprise mixtape which temporarily disrupted the Slime Season trilogy. This tape performed better than the first 2 entries of Slime Season, actually peaking at 22 on Billboard's 200 albums chart. The song My Boys, featuring Lil Durk, Trouble, and Rallo, is one of 2 Lil Durk assisted features on the mixtape, while the song Hercules would become the main hit of the mixtape, assisted by super producer Metro Boomin. Reviewers once again praised Thug's work, as well as his actual work ethic, dropping at a rate that was unusual for rappers at the time. And he wasn't about to let that work ethic ease up either, as at the end of the following month, on March the 25th, 2016, Thug continued the mixtape series that he'd started the previous year and dropped Slime Season number 3. This one performed the best out of any of his projects so far, going number 7 on Billboard, and this mixtape actually marked the conclusion of the Slime Season trilogy, and it featured songs like Digits and With Them, both of which were widely praised. Slime Season 3 was widely considered to be the best mixtape in the underground rap scene at the time, receiving many positive reviews, and the project saw Thug living up to his name, with the project positively packed with bold references to his blood gang and murderous lyrics. Track 1, titled With Them, saw Thug openly claiming that if people play with him, he's going to send them to God and then ask for forgiveness. But the violent lyrics were often dripping in so much auto-tune that many of them went straight over people's heads, and these jiggy murder anthems would storm the charts. The track With Them would reach 87 on the Billboard Hot 100s, and Digits, another hit song from the project, would hit number 93. However, the Atlanta law enforcement were likely also paying attention to the tape's violent themes, and lyrics from the song Slime Shit on the tape would later be listed in the YSL indictment. But Young Thug was on fire in the rap game at this point, storming the Billboard charts as well as playing bigger and bigger shows, and going on respectable sized tours around America and the world at large, even vlogging it every step of the way, with Young Thug truly living the rockstar life, being seen here crowd surfing during his European run in Denmark. By summer of 2016, Thug would be having one of the most iconic moments of his career. On August 26, 2016, he would drop the mixtape Jeffrey, titled after his real name. The project reached brave, creative new highs for Thug, and really raised the bar for just how much style and artistic expression could be crammed into a project in the trap music genre. The content of the project, as well as the cover art and title, represented a creative departure from Thug's thugged out image. The title of the tape, being his given name Jeffrey, represented a personal project and a mindset shift, and Thug would even claim in the lead up to the project's release that he officially didn't even want to be known as Young Thug anymore, and was now known on stage by his real name Jeffrey. In August 2016, in a video posted by Revolt, Thug said that the tape was going to be historic, and confirmed that he was changing his name and didn't want to be called Thug anymore.
And make sure you guys be ready for that Jeffrey. It's gonna be real history.
No doubt, man. So Jeffrey's coming out, man. We heard there's gonna be no more Young Thug, man.
Nah, after Jeffrey come out, I hope everybody in the world start acknowledging me as Jeffrey. I don't want to be Young Thug anymore.
The head of Thug's record label 300 Entertainment, Lyle Cohen, confirmed in a bizarre Rap Radar interview that's since been deleted from official sources that Thug was now known by the name No, My Name is Jeffrey, whilst adding that the purpose of the project was powerful imagery.
Well, man, Young Thug's about to get paid this Jeffrey project, man. What should we expect from that one, Thugger?
So, first of all, I'm in Brooklyn right now shooting the commercial announcing Jeffrey. And the reality of the situation is Young Thug is not going to be Young Thug anymore. His new name is going to be No, My Name is Jeffrey. No, My Name is Jeffrey. That's his new name.
Wow.
And the reality is when you see this commercial, you're all going to understand what we do here at 300.
Do you still feel that? I'm sorry, go ahead, Leor.
Because it's powerful images of what makes someone Young Thug and what the evolution and how someone is Jeffrey.
Right.
Okay? It's a circular thing. It's important.
Right.
So I'm very excited. We're shooting it in Brooklyn. No, My Name is Jeffrey is on his way. And please respect us to actually segue and utilize his name going forward, okay? Because it's important.
During the press conference for the tape, Thug would be asked by Lyle Cohen himself why he was changing his name, and Thug would mention his kids, as well as saying that it was just in case he meets Bill Gates or Oprah.
I didn't want to be in front of Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey. I don't want my kids to grow up and call me Thug, because Thug, in real life terms, Thug is like thuggy, you know what I'm saying?
On August the 23rd, 2016, Thug would drop a promotional trailer on his YouTube channel for the tape titled No, My Name is Jeffrey, days before the release.
Young Thug?
No, Jeffrey.
It says right here, Young Thug.
No, my name is Jeffrey.
Obviously, the most eye-catching thing about the Jeffrey project was the iconic cover that depicted Thug wearing a unique billowing purple dress designed by the Italian fashion designer Alessandro Trincone. Wearing this dress was the last thing that you would expect a feared gang leader from Atlanta to do. And whilst this clearly wasn't Thug's first time in a dress, the story behind why Thug ended up wearing this particular dress on the Jeffrey cover is particularly interesting. According to a Complex article breaking it down, Thug saw a picture of the dress at the end of a creative meeting for a fashion show he was involved in, and he was so captivated by seeing the dress, he demanded it for the cover art, saying that he had to have it now. Thug's love of the dress was an apparent cosmic coincidence, as Trincone had reportedly designed the dress using similar creative ideologies to Thug making his music, suggesting that it was designed with androgyny and an identity unrestricted by gender in mind. The month before Jeffrey dropped, Thug had actually modeled another dress for a Calvin Klein women's wear campaign that had the caption, "Disobey." And on July the 6th, 2016, in a video interview that was part of the campaign for Calvin Klein, Thug would claim that he believed there was no such thing as gender and that you could still be a gangster wearing a dress.
In my world, of course, it don't matter, you could be a gangster with a good dress, or you could be a gangster with baggy pants. I feel like there's no such thing as gender.
You look hot in a dress.
Thanks. Thanks. Somebody got to dress him with the.
Today, the dress lives in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Well, not today. Today it's on me. Stunning. But fans have interpreted the bold choice of this exotic woman's dress for the cover art as the perfect encapsulation of Thug's unapologetically creative personality. One Reddit user said, "He's big into fashion, and I think he just wanted to be himself. I always loved this cover, but it encapsulates what, in my opinion, Thugger is all about. He's unapologetically himself, and doesn't care what others have to say about him. You can hear it in all his music, but the best example is this project." That's my take on it anyway. This was an interesting creative decision with a deep artistic meaning, but it also had the secondary effect of inspiring relentless trolling of Thug on Twitter, with people likening Thug in the fit to a Swifter duster. Others joked that he looked like something that could be hanging off the side of a pina colada, while others thought that the dress's ruffles resembled the brushes of a car wash. Some said that he looked like an incredibly powerful character from the Mortal Kombat games, and many celebrities weren't impressed either. In a video since deleted from YouTube in August 2016, Fat Joe would allegedly shrivel up when asked about the dress on the VMA's red carpets by Complex. However, as years went by, it seemed like Thug didn't even want to stand on his original creative reasoning for wearing the dress, as he would actually deny years later in an interview on T.I.'s podcast, Expeditiously, that he wore the dress for attention. This time, saying the real reason is because he thought the dress matched his Margiela shoes, and that's why he liked it.
He did that for attention, did you not? Tell the truth. God honest truth. God honest truth. Tell me the God honest truth. You did that for attention, didn't you?
Hell no.
You did that because you knew, man, ain't nothing nobody can say about me because I'm real out here and I'm thorough and it get me a lot of burns. So I'm finna do it. Okay, what you do it?
I bought the Mason Margiela.
Oh, here go the
This
the
real
truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh, okay.
Yeah, what happened?
The Margiela, they match. Just that simple.
In a later song called Just How It Is, Thug this time explained that he wore the dress to hide his machine gun, something that he reiterated in a No Jumper interview in July 2019.
Yeah, it's like, nigga, I wore this long dress that I had for December from me. I'm saying it on my album. It's one of the songs in my album, and it just explains like the question of the century, like the question that everybody always wanted to know. There's one bar in the song that just answers the question. Like, you'll hear, it's like dope.
Now to me, this kind of represented a bit of backtracking by Young Thug creatively. He's usually unapologetically himself, but perhaps in the face of years of trolling over the dress, he felt like he needed a more gangster and macho excuse for rocking this feminine fit. Now I personally don't think there's anything wrong with a guy wearing a dress, and to be fair, there is plenty of space in here for the stick. The project, released on August the 26th, 2016, was a commercial success, hitting number 8 on the Billboard charts, one spot below his Slime Season 3 tape, but this project was bigger than anything he had done creatively before. The album was Thug's most critically acclaimed one yet, scoring an 8.5 from Pitchfork, and the project would be incredibly creative musically. All of the album's tracks are named after his idols and biggest inspirations, including Wyclef Jean, Floyd Mayweather, and of course, Harambe, the gorilla from the Cincinnati Zoo who was tragically packed after getting caught with a child in his pen in 2016. Thug used his album credits to show love to the great artists who inspired him, like Future, Gucci Mane aka Guwop, producer Swizz Beatz, Rihanna aka Riri, Webby, and Kanye West. This was an interesting artistic direction, but also a smart clout move. Just like trying to name his controversial tape Carter 6 gained him a monumental amount of attention and controversy, naming each of these tracks after famous people tapped into their audiences and attracted attention from their fan bases. But don't let the dress fool you either. The lyrics of Jeffrey once again saw Thug hinting at his ability to organize violence as the leader of his gang. Wyclef Jean has Thug bragging about how much money he has now, and a refrain where Thug repeats, if you play with his money, he will let his people do ya, and rapping in the verse that if you play with his money, you'll end up in a body bag, as well as warning his ops not to play with him because his goons have a new AK-47. In the second verse, Thug continues rapping about how people were plotting on him, but he spotted it first and turned the tables, putting a target on their head. That song was a commercial success, hitting 87 on Billboard's Hot 100. But on track 2, Floyd Mayweather, we saw an iconic track where Thug, Gunna, Travis Scott, and Gucci Mane all go round for round with short verses like boxers fighting. Thug raps about someone trying to hit a lick and missing, and them trying to run, but him ending up catching them and filling them with the whole clip. Track 3, Swizz Beatz, saw Thug paying homage to YSL Woody, saying that he totes a gun like it's legal, and then shouting out Woody again before making a gun sound, before going on to say that he looks that up 1,000 times. Now, I could be reaching, but I feel like he's saying that he looks up the news clips of Nut's murder and the crimes YSL allegedly committed against their enemies. Thug would later describe himself as the shot caller in his group, and in track 4, Future Swag, this saw Thug making a comment relevant relevant to the dress on the album cover, saying don't be fooled by thinking that he looks soft, he is dangerous and he will cut out your tongue. And later saying that he spends money on people's legal cases and that his gang sends their ops to meet their makers. On track 5, Riri, Thug says that he's got rank in his gang and reminds everybody outright that he's a blood member and a gangbanger and that he's not soft just because he's singing. Thug would then drop a ironic series of lines saying that his crew are the realest gangbangers and that he has real killers with him who are dangerous, but you won't see those people on camera or even know their names. On the 6th track, Goo Wop, Jeffrey along with Young Scooter and Quavo and Offset of the Migos pay homage to the godfather of trap, Gucci Mane. The song had Thug doing a lot of incriminating gangster talk, seemingly directly referencing Big Nut's murder at the barbershop, rapping how the FN gave him a haircut, and saying that even his girl knows that he's gangster, along with a hook where Thug says that he's got 20 bullets in his gun and will shoot at you and your kid and your woman. Track 7, Harambe, would see Thug going positively ape, and the track had some of the most flagrant examples of self-snitching that Thug would ever do in his career, as Thug would rap about how money will kill someone fast, and then in a pretty dark run of lyrics, Young Thug would then make one of his earliest mentions of having shot up his enemies' mothers and children, rapping how he'll shoot at your mother, brother, whole family, father, daughter and son, even if they're a baby. Now this lyric was apparently 100% accurate and no rap cap, as it would turn out that following the death of Big Nut and in the midst of a beef with Nut's friend and artist YFN Lucci's mother's home was shot up numerous times in the span of just a few days in 2015, just a year before Jeffrey was released, as explained by Lucci in this interview released on March the 22nd, 2016 with Civil TV.
When my house got shot up, I was out of town though, man. I get a call, my mom don't say the house got shot. When we get back, everything was good though. She didn't get shot and everything was good. You see, they ain't shoot too many times the first time. You can tell they had to pull up right here. They ain't even pull up in front of the house. They pull up like right here, and they was just shooting it like, you know, sideways behind the car in the street. They was in the street though shooting, cause that's why all the shell was. Like a week later, we was at the studio. I get the same call. My boy, boom. He had my phone. He ain't even really want to say it. He like the house that he say it happened again. That's how he say I know what he was talking about though. Juju was in here, my baby mama, and my little girl and my mama and her friend. Both of them got shot though, my mama and her friend. Her room right here though. So that's how she got shot really. They was shooting, boom, boom. They was in the bed, both of them got hit in the leg.
This is something that Lucci's mother would later reveal in the trial, also revealing that her grandchild, Lucci's daughter, was also there when the shooting happened.
How many times back in 2015 was your home shot up?
Twice.
Were you injured at any one of those times that your home was shot up?
The second one.
Okay. Was there anyone home with you that first time?
Yes.
Okay.
The upstairs. Me and my grandbaby just had one upstairs.
Sitting here today, do you remember how many gunshots you heard?
A lot of them.
Do you remember if your son, Rayshawn, was home when the house was shot up the first time?
No, he wasn't.
Now, the second shooting, you said that was about a day or so later?
Yes.
The first shooting, did I hear you say you left the house?
I left for like 2 days or maybe one night. I can't remember.
And when you returned, was that when the second shooting happened?
Yes.
Who was at home during that second time that your home was shot?
The same 3.
And would that be your granddaughter? I believe Juju, your friend who sometimes come over.
Yes, my friend.
Your friend. And then was your granddaughter's mother there?
Yes, we were shot.
When you said we knew we were shot.
I say that's when I noticed. I seen blood.
Did you have to go to the hospital?
Yes.
Both the first time and the second time that your home was shot, did you speak with police?
I can't recall.
Okay.
This was by no means the first time Thug had rapped about shooting at people's mothers and family either, but despite the playful nature of the dress and the auto-tuned vocals, make no mistake, Jeffrey is gangster rap, and Thug is letting the whole world know that just because he's wearing a dress, don't think for a second he won't smoke you. Jeffrey was a huge success and represented a massive leveling up for Thug and his profile creatively, and from here he would just keep on winning. A bonus track called Pick Up the Phone, released on June the 3rd, 2016, and also appeared at the end of the Jeffrey album as well as on Travis Scott's album. This collaboration, that also included Quavo, peaked at 43 on Billboard in September of 2016. A little while later, his collaboration track with Usher, called No Limit, would release in June, eventually peaking at 32 on Billboard in August of the same year. And after that, his feature on the song Offended with Meek Mill Mill and 21 Savage would also hit 70 on Billboard. On that track, Thug appears to say that somebody was plotting to kill him and that he took them out first. At this point, Thug had seemingly conquered the solo rap game and was now looking to become a mogul and push his team forward too. In November 2016, Thug would co-found the official Young Stoner Life Records imprint under 300 Entertainment alongside the label CEO Kevin Liles. And in these clips posted by academics, we would see Thug officially getting his own office at YSL, which was now officially a label as well as a gang.
Yes, quick question. Hey, thank you.
And he would induct the 300 label boss Liar Cohen into the gang label with his very own YSL chain.
Yes, sir. What? Papa Kid. What? You did.
Now, Thug would use his label to sign some of Atlanta's most buzzing artists like Gunna, Lil Keed, and Yak Gossi. Thug was clearly feeling himself by the end of 2016, and perhaps his success had his ego out of control. Because in a display of not being very truly humble under God, in December of 2016, Thug would go viral for berating an airline employee after missing his flight in a video that was posted by Play This Hip Hop on Facebook.
These two ants are so rude.
You need to get me off the camera and you need to step away from this camera.
These two ants are so rude. They peasants. They saying they manager on the way. I don't want to talk to the manager. Y'all ants. Your manager peasant. Y'all ants. I give y'all bum at $15,000 a piece to quit your job.
Willing.
I'm giving you bums one more chance. Look at, get their hair. Sink in on the hair. They have napkins. They look like Africans. They done got deported over. What's
deported and escorted.
Do you bums need tokens or what? Bigger than the law. Also. Call every officer you want to call. I'm glad you turned around. Luckily, don't be.
Perhaps it's not too surprising that a man who claims to kill his enemies also isn't nice to airline staff. But anyway, embarrassment aside, moving into 2017, he would land some of the most lucrative opportunities that the rap game had to offer. In March 2017, Thug featured on the song Trap 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 with Rick Ross and Wale, going 97 on Billboard. Then in March, Drake dropped his More Life project, which goes #1 on the charts, and Thug would actually land 3 features on the project. Firstly, Sacrifices with 2 Chainz, which hit number 36, where Thug rapped about how he has people killed neatly like the president would, and he popped up again on the track Ice Melts, which went 62 on Billboard. And even at the end of March, Calvin Harris would release a song called Heatstroke that featured Thug, Pharrell Williams, and Ariana Grande. The song was the second of 10 songs released by the Scottish DJ and producer Icon in 2017, and would later be included as track 3 on his Funk Wave Bounces Volume 1 album. That one hit 96 on Billboard and was certified gold. Then in June 2017, Thug released his latest full-length project, Beautiful Thugger Girls. This was a controversial project for a number of reasons. He dropped it on the 16th of June 2017, the same day as Tupac's birthday. And Thug tweeted that he did this on purpose because he felt that he was this generation's Tupac and wanted to finish what Pac had started. Wyclef Jean apparently agreed with this, showing the level of stardom that Thug was really reaching at this point. But that wasn't the only reason the project was controversial. The tape itself was a departure from Thug's usual trap music style. In this project, he incorporated elements of country music and rock and roll, appearing on the cover art with a guitar. A conceptual move that many people felt Thug had stolen once again from his usual muse Lil Wayne, whose Rebirth album in 2010 was controversial for being a rock-inspired rap album too. But this project peaked at number 8 on Billboard, and the song Relationship from the project featured Future and peaked at number 65 on Billboard. Thug's singles and features during this period cleaned up on the charts too. In July, a collaboration with Meek Mill was released called We Ball, hitting number 96. However, unfortunately behind the scenes, alongside all the self-snitching that he was doing in his songs, Thug was moving sloppy in the streets, and ultimately ended up in trouble with the law. On September the 24th, 2017, Thug, Gunna, and a former personal assistant of Thug, who has since become a full-time employee at 300 Entertainment, would be in a vehicle that got stopped for having illegally tinted windows. Police would search the vehicle, reportedly finding 2.5 ounces of marijuana, many other drugs, and $50,000 in cash, along with a firearm to make matters worse. Images of the stop released by WSB-TV many years later would show Thug getting patted down and him and Gunna miserably sitting on the floor in handcuffs. While during the search, the police would find an allegedly stolen firearm and a plethora of drugs in the car. Bodycam footage released during the traffic stop recorded Thug, who was pleading with the cop, seemingly desperate not to go to jail, while the cop would let Thug know that he has a whole trifecta of illegal items in his possession.
Real soon as I got kids and everything, I don't need nobody saying you going to jail about nothing. I'm supposed to perform with Jimmy Fallon.
You got dope, you got money, you got guns. Trifecta.
WSB-TV would also attain the transcript of the arrest in 2022 and reveal that the third man who was with them tried to claim ownership of everything in the car, but the cops weren't buying it. Both Thug and Gunna were charged with theft by receiving stolen property due to the firearm being stolen and with intent to distribute felony quantities of methamphetamine, hydrocodone, and marijuana. And each of these charges would later be included in the YSL RICO trial and used as proof of YSL being a criminal street gang that they were conspiring to be part of. The authorities would continue to monitor YSL closely for the following 5 5 years from this point. 2 days after the arrest, on September the 26th, 2017, TMZ would break the news and report on the arrest, and it would take until the following year for Thug to be hit with 8 charges related to this stop. But ultimately, this setback didn't stop Thug's role. In fact, he would soon have arguably the biggest moment of his career to date. In August 2017, Havana, a song by pop sensation Camila Cabello, would be released with a feature from Thug. The track earned Thug his first Billboard Hot 100 #1 single, and the song would spend a lengthy 46 weeks on the charts. The track was a global hit, going #1 in 24 countries outside of the US and charting in at least 38 other countries around the world. Havana was huge, and no doubt Thug's small but impactful appearance on this generational hit cemented him as a legendary figure in pop music beyond trap, and he continued to drop hits from here, because a few days after its release, on August the 8th, 2019, Thug would make an alarming post on social media tagging his longtime enemy YFN Lucci and saying, "If I didn't like what you did for your family, I would have killed you a while ago." Another quote that would later come back to haunt Thug at the YSL trial. And again, I'm not going to give you the ins and outs of this beef with Lucci in this video, but clearly at this point, Thug had zero cares about broadcasting his violent fantasies he was having about what he was going to do to his ops. On August the 16th, 2019, Young Thug released his debut solo album, So Much Fun. For some reason in the music industry today, there's this kind of weird distinction between mixtape, commercial mixtape, and studio albums, but for all intents and purposes, all of Thug's music up until this point had been full-length, album quality projects, regardless of what you want to call them. The distinction between the album and mixtape is just more of an indicator as to whether the project represents fulfillment of an obligation under the record deal, but in this case, the importance of Thug's latest project being a full-blown debut album was actually pretty significant. Thug's debut, So Much Fun, would debut at #1 on the Billboard charts, and it charted in multiple countries all around the world, selling 131,000 copies in the first week and later becoming certified platinum. The album was once again reviewed positively on Pitchfork, who called it Thug's best project to date. Track 1, titled Just How It Is, would be perhaps the most self-incriminating song on the album, and it would be indeed referenced in the YSL indictment, as Thug states that he used to rob and kidnap, but now he's a full-time rapper. He also speaks on his altercation at the Lenox Mall. He would praise his lawyer Brian Steele and states that he actually gave him $2 million to handle all the murders. He creatively finds a way to mention the murder of Big Nut, inferring that he killed the biggest blood out there. The main theme of the song is that Thug came from nothing and doesn't care about the police anymore because he's now rich. Famous last words if you ask me. Track 4 of the album, Hot, was actually Thug and Gunna's triumphant celebration of their lifestyles, and it turned out to be the album's breakout hit. The song would spend 26 weeks on the chart, peaking at number 11, and this track quickly became viral on social media, helping it gain even more attention. In the song, Thug would talk about kicking in doors at the age of 5 and being sick of fake gangsters. The following year, at the start of 2021, Juice WRLD would release his song Bad Boy that had a feature with Thug. The song hit 22 on the charts, but would also be cited in the YSL indictment, where Thug hinted at having killers in his gang and being responsible for the shooting of YFN Lucci's mother. Then on April the 16th, 2021, Young Stoner Life Records would release Slime Language 2, this being the second full-length studio album from Thug's gang, label. The cover art featured a photograph taken of the Young Stoner Life Records roster, including both producers and rappers affiliated with the label. Slime Language 2 landed Thug yet another #1 on the Billboard albums charts, and generated total sales of 113,000 albums in the first week. However, the album was met with relatively poor reviews compared to Thug's earlier projects. Critics noted that there were standout tracks and strong performances from featured artists like Travis Scott and Lil Uzi Vert, but many felt the album was overstuffed with 23 tracks, leading to inconsistency and forgettable moments from lesser-known artists within the YSL roster. The album had one painfully ironic song called Take It to Trial, where YSL members dissed the police, prosecutors, and judges of Atlanta, promising to take it to trial if they ever get charged with crimes, something that would be painfully unfunny when serious charges eventually dropped on the crew. Another charting song from the album was Slatty, featuring Young Thug, Gunna, and the YSL artists Yak Gotti and Lil Duke, which peaked at 99 on the Billboard 100. Slatty 2 would also be included in the YSL indictment, referring to lyrics about killing someone's friend in front of their mother. The song Ski, featuring Gunna and Thug, would end up going viral too, peaking at 18 on the Billboard charts. But once again, that song would also be included in the YSL indictment. On the song Solid, Thug and Gunna would reunite with Drake for a track speaking about solid and genuine relationships. Ironically, something that both Gunna and Thug would learn a heavy lesson about later on at trial. Solid would end up being the most popular song on the release, peaking at number 12, probably due to the fact that it had a Drake feature. Later in October, Thug would release his second official studio album and his 14th official solo release, a project titled Punk. This would debut at number 1 on Billboard as well, earning 90,000 sales in its first week, becoming Thug's third US number 1 album to debut on the charts. This received decent reviews, like a 7.1 from Pitchfork, who acknowledged the experimental approach used on the album. Critics generally noted that Punk diverged from Thug's earlier work, showing a more introspective and acoustic-driven sound, with outlets like Rolling Stone praising the album for its experimentation, but criticizing it for lacking standout moments. Tracks like Bubbly, Contagious, and Die Slow were considered broadly to be some of the more standout songs of the album, getting positive mentions for their engaging production and lyrical depth. On Bubbly, the lead and only single from the album, Thug would collaborate with the usually heavy hitters Drake and Travis Scott, with a fan favorite song that ended up hitting 20 on the charts. But with the indictment now looming on the horizon, during the early days of 2022, Thug would still drop hits, most notably being his features on 2 songs from Gunna's Drip Season Forever project. One of these would be the smash hit Pushin' P that spent 20 weeks on the charts, peaking at number 7, and with the song's release, the phrase Pushing P would go viral. This bizarre phrase had some interesting meanings. Apparently it stands for acting like a pimp or player, or simply applying pressure to a situation and remaining solid. But others claim it's more of a reference to splashing cash and balling as a way of life, spending money on things that you always wanted. Whilst trolls have suggested that pushing P actually refers to pushing urine out of your pee-pee when you're in a crowded prison men's room. But it could also refer to distributing Percocet pills. It was even something that Thug's lawyer would even try and explain away during the trial as actually meaning pushing positivity.
It's called pushing P, and it's positivity. It means any circumstance you're in. If you think positively about something, you can make it through. You're pushing positivity. You're pushing P. Jeffrey is showing the P.
The track Mop from Gunna's project would also feature Young Thug and landed at 45 on the charts. But at this point in time, it's likely that at least some members of YSL realized that the heat of a police investigation might not be far away, whether it was just rumors on the street or just simple intuition. But even with the indictment looming around the corner, many within YSL were still operating as recklessly as ever. On February the 7th, 2022, Christian Eppinger, better known in the streets as YSL member Big Briss, would be stopped by police, and it would be during this altercation that he would pull out a gun and fire 6 shots at the arresting officer, who would only barely escape the incident with his life. The incident would be caught on surveillance video, and it would eventually become another charge within the YSL indictment.
In the video, Officer David Rogers can be seen pulling up on a street in southwest Atlanta in February while trying to serve a warrant. He jumps out of the car and struggles with a man. Then you see the man shoot Officer Rogers, who falls to the ground. The man then can be seen running away.
YSL was not only moving recklessly outside of the prison, but also within the prison walls. On the 9th of February 2022, 2 members of YSL would allegedly attempt to kill YFN Lucci, who was still locked up on his own RICO case involving his set's YFN, with an incident report revealing that Lucci was involved in a fight where the other men had sharp objects, while Lucci would allegedly yell how he felt like killing the man himself. This would later be revealed to be an alleged planned hit by YSL members, with the shocking footage of the fight being revealed during the trial.
Now, Lieutenant, as the fight's going on, can you tell the jurors in each one of the pods where are the deputies in relation to the inmates, for example, the ones we're watching right now? Where does this deputy come from?
He comes, I'm assuming, from the other side.
There would also allegedly be a highly incriminating discussion held between 2 members of YSL on February the 22nd, 2022. Freshly in Fulton County Jail, Big Briss, who had just been arrested for the attempted murder on that police officer, would allegedly hold discussions with another YSL member where they were trying to figure out how to obtain permission from Thug to make a second attempt to kill YFN Lucci. On March the 14th, 2022, YSL found themselves entangled in yet another incident, adding to their growing list of offenses leading up to their arrests. But this time, it would be an actual murder, as Atlanta PD would find a man shot and killed under Interstate 20. The man turned out to be a 23-year-old named Shymel Drinks, an alleged affiliate of YFN.
On the heels of another homicide in the city, the medical examiner says 23-year-old Shymel Drinks was killed near I-20 last night. A witness found a car riddled with bullet holes parked on Windsor Street underneath the overpass around 10 last night. Drinks was inside, shot multiple times. This is a second shooting near an interstate in the last week. Police are working to see if there was any video captured near that scene. If you know anything or think you do, you're asked to please contact police.
The murder of Drinks would allegedly be get back for the murders of 2 YSL members that happened earlier in 2022, and 4 YSL members, Lil Miles, aka Miles Farley, D, aka Demekion Garlington, Qua, aka Quamarvius Nichols, and SB, aka Shannon Stillwell, would ultimately be accused of this murder as part of the YSL indictment. On April the 28th, 2022, with the indictment less than 2 weeks away, 2 members of YSL would even allegedly conspire to commit the murder of another YSL member. Polo, aka Cordarius Dorsey, who was locked up at this time, would allegedly order Obama, aka Anthony Sumlin, to kill another fellow gang member, Harold Clements, because Clements had apparently refused to put money on Polo's jail books, with Polo then providing Obama with Clements' phone number to set up the murder. By early 2022, Young Thug had made significant strides in the music industry. He had released critically acclaimed music that showcased his unique style that had established him as a leading figure in not just the Atlanta rap scene, but the global music scene. However, behind the glamour and hidden by the illuminating lights of success and accolades, Thug was still allegedly very much entangled with the street beefs of his hometown, and his gang affiliations and criminal activities casted a dark cloud over his success. Eventually, though, the law would catch up with him, and the once celebrated artist would soon find himself ensnared in the legal battle of a lifetime, which threatened to undo all of his artistic achievements and completely redefine his legacy. On May the 9th, 2022, Thug's life would come crashing down. That afternoon, his lavish mansion in the Buckhead district of Atlanta would be raided by the Atlanta PD. And soon after, social media news pages would shock the world with numerous posts and compilations of clips from the ongoing raid. The videos would show that Atlanta PD spared no expense, and either as a precaution or more likely to send a message, the operation included an army of police, armored vehicles, and even police helicopters. The video would also show Thug being walked down the street to a police vehicle with his hands tied behind his back with what looked like zip ties. As Young Thug was arrested, his phone would be seized and the police would begin a comprehensive search of his estate, a search that would later lead to additional charges for drugs and guns found in the home.
Young Thug is scheduled to appear in court today in Georgia on gang-related charges. The rapper, whose real name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams, was one of 28 people named in an indictment in that state. He's charged with conspiracy to violate the state's RICO Act and participation in criminal street gang activity.
As a sign of the current times, it would be the social media pages that would be providing the most up-to-date information about these developing events, as journalists like Atlanta-based George Chidi from The Guardian would confirm already that same night that Thug was being held at the Fulton County Jail on narcotics and gang charges, as well as stating that this appeared to be the beginning of a state RICO case against the street gang that had already been alluded to by the Fulton DA Fanny Willis the previous month. Soon, the news about Thug's arrest would also reach the subreddit Atlantaology that focuses on the city's rap and gang scenes, with one of the first comments on the news being how somebody on Reddit had actually predicted that this arrest would happen, while the original poster would reply how it had only been a matter of time after Christian Eppinger, aka Big Briss, had almost killed a police officer a few months earlier. Indeed, the journalist George Chidi would explain to DJ Vlad how he believed that it was Eppinger's actions that actually triggered the arrests of YSL members, including Thug.
Eppinger's arrest, I think, was what set off the rest of this. I think the district attorney says that they were looking at things before then, and they were, but they weren't getting ready to act. Like, Eppinger's arrest set off the chain that ultimately ended up with Young Thug being arrested.
Another Reddit user would comment their surprise that law enforcement were now hitting rappers and their crews with RICO charges, wondering who would be next, with the first reply rather correctly predicting that it would indeed be Lil Durk's OTF crew. But still, on the night of the 9th, local TV reporter Michael Seiden would tweet the first official source of the breaking news, confirming that rappers Young Thug and Gunna were among 28 defendants charged in a 56-count indictment in Fulton County. He would also add that the indictment included charges of conspiring to violate the RICO Act, murder, armed robbery, and participation in criminal street gang activity. The DA's office would remain tight-lipped about the indictment, ignoring all media inquiries, the implication perhaps being that they plan to remain silent until they had caught as many of the 28 defendants charged in the indictment as possible. Then, another update was posted from the WSB TV reporter, confirming that Young Thug had indeed been booked on charges of conspiracy to violate the RICO Act and participation in criminal street gang activity. Alongside the final piece of evidence of his arrest, a mugshot would appear of the King Slime himself, with Young Thug being confirmed to be behind bars. There were also questions about Gunna, but as of 10 p.m. that night, Gunna had yet to be booked into jail, but he would eventually turn himself in a few days later on the early hours of May the 11th. Years later, Thug and Gunna's closest associate Lil Baby would recall on Lil Yachty's Safe Place podcast how he had actually visited Thug at his Buckhead mansion on the very day the arrest went down, feeling that he had barely avoided getting mixed up in the case himself.
Could have been with him.
Yeah.
You know, I was at his house the same day. Thank God I just happened to leave
day,
2 hours early.
That's crazy.
That don't f your head up more than anything. Like, damn, I gotta see bro go through it. Like, damn, that shit really could have been me.
The full indictment would eventually become available online for the whole world to see, showing a very long list of names and nicknames of the 28 defendants, these being Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, aka Slime, Sergio Kitchens, aka Gunna, Diamante Kendrick, aka Yak Gotti, Khalif Adams, aka Bobby Hunt, Martinez Arnold, aka Lil Duke, Durante Beebe, aka B, Demekion Garlington, aka D or Scarface, Damone Blaylock, aka Barley, Dravaris Bradford, aka Tudor, Justin Cobb, aka Doo-Wop, Cordarius Dorsey, aka Polo or Juicy, Christian Eppinger, aka Briss, Miles Farley, aka Slatto or Lil Miles, Javon Fleetwood, aka Fortray or Psycho, Quantavious Greer, aka Unfunk, Marquavius Hui, aka Qua, Winnie Lee, aka Slime Life Shorty, Demise McCullen, aka Nard, Taquarius Mender, aka Stunner, Walter Murphy, aka DK, Jaden Myrick, aka Setrip or J-Man, Cormavius Nichols, Rodalius Ryan, aka Lil Rod, Antonio Sledge, aka Monk Trunk, Trontavious Stevens, aka Tick or Slug, Shannon Stillwell, aka Shannon Jackson or SB, Antonio Sumlin, aka Obama, and Jimmy Winfrey, aka Pee Wee Roscoe. The indictment would also include an even longer list of charges, with altogether 56 counts. This indictment painted a picture of YSL as a highly dangerous criminal enterprise, whose members had been since 2013, at least, been committing crimes like pointing guns towards police officers, conspiring to commit murders, allegations of trafficking numerous different illegal substances, numerous attempted murders, and worst of all, several allegations of actual murders, the most famous one of course being the murder of Donovan Thomas, aka Big Nut, while one of the most harrowing being the murder of a 15-year-old boy by YSL associates who themselves were as young as 15 and 17, that being Rodalius Ryan, Lil Rod, and Damon Blaylock, aka Barley. YSL, or Young Slime Life, had long been described by law enforcement as a criminal street gang, masquerading as a record label under the name Young Stoner Life. These accusations placed Young Thug at the center of a complex web of criminal activities, with authorities aiming to portray YSL, the criminal enterprise, as being under his leadership, with Thug himself facing multiple charges, including theft by receiving stolen property, more specifically 2 stolen firearms from 2013 and 2017, as well as being charged with making terroristic threats by threatening to shoot a security guard who was trying to get him to leave a shopping mall in 2015. Thug and Gunna were also charged with the possession of several illegal substances with an intent to distribute, including methamphetamine, hydrocodone, and marijuana, which stemmed from the 2017 arrest when their car was pulled over due to illegally tinted front windows. Police would initiate a search of the vehicle, finding guns and a large amount of cash, along with a plethora of drugs, including methamphetamine, hydrocodone, marijuana, amphetamine, alprazolam aka Xanax, and of course, good old-fashioned codeine. This impressive list perhaps indicating that these rappers had begun a new hobby of speedballing in their spare time. But of course, the indictment would allege that Young Thug had been committing all of these acts while participating in criminal street gang activity. But the most consequential of the accusations against Thug would undoubtedly be the claim that he had actually rented the car that was used in the murder of Donovan Thomas, aka Big Nut. Additionally, the great majority of accusations against Thug in the indictment would include much more trivial sounding acts, much of these surrounding his use of social media and the lyrics of his songs, which the prosecutors saw to be in furtherance of the conspiracy of YSL's criminal gang. But most of these appeared rather random, given that any fan of Thug could have likely easily pointed out dozens of similar examples over the years of Thug repping YSL or Six Money Murder in his music or on social media. However, there would be some highly interesting tidbits of information mixed in with these random lyrics and social media posts, such as Thug's exchange with the alleged leader of the Six Money Murder Bloods, Kyle Ori, who had been behind bars since a gruesome 2003 murder of a young aspiring rapper named Robert Daughtry. According to the indictment, only a few weeks after the murder of Big Nut, Young Thug and Ori would have a conversation where one of them, likely Ori, would tell Thug how sacrifices had to be made and people had to die in order for the battle to be won, and that anyone who failed to fall in line with the 5 leaders of Six Money Murder in Georgia would have to be dealt with. As Thug was now sitting in the Fulton County Jail, it didn't take long for his very expensive legal team to get to work, and only hours after Thug had been booked in jail, a pretty tired-looking Brian Steele would make his first statement to a local TV station, refuting the allegations and proclaiming Young Thug's innocence and promising to fight to his last drop of blood to clear Thug's name.
I'll tell you, the response to any allegation is Mr. Williams committed no crime whatsoever, and we will fight to my last drop of blood to clear him.
The next day, Fulton County DA Fanny Willis, along with Sheriff Patrick Labbott and Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant, would announce a press conference to discuss the indictment against YSL, during which Willis would give a fiery speech against any gangs operating in Atlanta.
Today, I'm joined by the Atlanta Police Chief, Chief Rodney Bryant, as well as my sheriff and our sheriff, Sheriff Patrick Labbott. We are here today about a grand jury indictment that was returned that included not just Jeffrey Williams, which is of some notoriety and media attention, but about 28 defendants that operated within our community between the time period of 2012 and 2022. It is our allegation that they operated as a criminal street gang and commenced to do havoc in our community. That havoc includes crimes of violence, crimes of thefts, crimes involving drugs. I've made no secret about it, nor any apology, that as the District Attorney of Fulton County, my #1 focus is targeting gangs. It does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are in furtherance of a street gang, that you are going to become a target and a focus of this district attorney's office, and we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
DA Fanny Willis would close the press conference with an emotional speech about the impact of the murder of Donovan Nut Thomas, saying how his murder led to an unprecedented wave of violence in the streets of Atlanta and how Nut deserved justice just like any other member of society.
I was a prosecutor, as you know, for 16 years, 4 months, and 4 days in this office. The murder of Donovan Thomas in 2015 created violence like Atlanta has never seen. It was a goal of my predecessor and any person or prosecutor in this office to make sure that that family received justice, because everyone is entitled to justice. It was a commitment I made from the first day I walked into this office. Very shortly after me becoming the DA, I sat down with Mr. Thomas's mother and I made her a promise that her son was as valuable as any other person within our community, and that I would put resources on this case, and that I would do everything I could to make sure that her son had justice. And yesterday was a proud day for me.
The press conference sent a clear picture. The DA had declared war on the gangs of Atlanta a while back, and now YSL was the biggest fish they had caught thus far. The next day, on May the 11th, Thug's problems would only get worse, as he would be hit with 7 new charges, all stemming from when the police raided his home, where they found numerous guns and drugs.
New accusations against rapper Young Thug stemming from a raid at his Buckhead home. Now he's charged with additional drug offenses, gang activity, and possession of weapons. He's facing 2 separate criminal cases, 2 charges from the RICO case, and 7 charges in the latest legal action.
That same day, Young Thug's father would actually make an appearance on local TV news, stating that his son was being unfairly linked to the crimes, and that he was promising to fight for his son, adding that YSL was simply a legitimate business and record label.
I think my son has been unfairly linked to a lot of things, but it's up to us to prove it. I'm gonna fight for him to the end. I'm his father.
What is YSL?
It's a business. It's a record label.
On May the 13th, local news would provide more information about law enforcement's investigation into YSL, confirming that arrests were still being made, with DA Fanny Willis expecting to have every defendant behind bars within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, we can tell you that DA Willis says at this hour, arrests are still being made. She says it could be up to 2 weeks before everybody is in custody.
Ultimately, the music had finally stopped for YSL, and they were now facing one of the most serious trials in Georgia state history. But over the next few years, the case would unfold in weird and unexpected ways. And despite the prosecution seemingly having an airtight case, they didn't count on some of the ingenious moves and finesses that Young Thug and his attorneys had up their sleeves. If you're enjoying the video and want to support the channel more, head on over to traplaw.com and grab some of this spectacular merch that was inspired by this video. Once the dust settled on Young Thug's dramatic arrest, authorities would begin the legwork on building the legal case, and this RICO case against YSL would end up being one of the biggest and most complicated prosecutions in Georgia history. The case was brought by infamous Fulton County District Attorney Fanny T. Willis. Raised by a single father who was a former LA Black Panther turned defense attorney, he groomed her for a profession in law from the age of 9, taking her to the courtroom and instilling the importance of justice in her. Graduating from Howard University in 1992, Fanny Willis came to Georgia to attend Emory University School of Law, graduating in 1996 and making Fulton County her home. A career trial lawyer, she's led over 100 jury trials and prosecuted hundreds of murder cases with over 19 years of experience. Her first government job was as a solicitor, prosecuting misdemeanors and city ordinance violations, eventually leveling up to getting hired by the district attorney's office. However, it was in the early 2010s, when she was working as the assistant district attorney, that Fanny Willis would really make a name for herself, as she would serve as the lead prosecutor on an infamous case where the state of Georgia indicted 35 Atlanta educators on RICO charges, accusing them of giving answers to students and changing the test scores after they were turned in, as well as threatening teachers who would try to report the cheating scheme, essentially painting these teachers and superintendents like mob bosses. However, despite the time and money spent on the case, the success of the prosecution against this dangerous gang of classroom gangsters catapulted Fanny Willis to legal stardom, creating an alluring precedent of delivering complicated and long RICO-style indictments to unconventional targets and gaining monumental levels of clout off the back of the high-profile trials that followed. From here on, her career would seemingly go from strength to strength, both within the DA's office and in a private practice that she would start in 2018 to truly secure the bag. And she would later brag in an Atlanta Voice article how she built her reputation working for the DA's office for 16 years, 8 of those being in the homicide departments. With 100 cases under her belt, she claimed that she was in the top 10% of lawyers. It's no surprise then that Willis was beginning to set her eyes on bigger aspirations, initially running for a seat on the judge's bench in the Fulton County Superior Court in 2018, but losing. Then in 2019, she would successfully run to become the chief municipal judge for South Fulton before stepping down to run for an even greater position. And on January the 1st, 2021, she made history becoming the first woman to be elected as the district attorney of Fulton County after she campaigned on a commitment to protect Fulton's neighborhoods and reduce crime. This was a cutthroat race that actually saw Willis going head-to-head with her former boss and winning. In a promotional video released at the end of 2021, Willis updated the Atlanta public on her plans as the DA, vowing to clear the backlog of cases and blaming the previous administration and the pandemic for the courts not getting the job done.
When we took office, we found a backlog of cases unprecedented in Fulton County's history because of the cases that were stalled by the pandemic of our courts and the prior mismanagement of this office by the former administration. We found 22,000 pending cases, half of which hadn't even yet been indicted. We also found in excess of 50,000 closed cases that were not properly entered into the public record. I have brought in new, highly experienced staff to serve our community, and we have been working around the clock to clear the backlog and make sure we get dangerous defendants indicted and keep them off our streets. We are pushing cases through to trial or pleas to get justice for victims, and we have made real progress, but we still have more to do. In 2022, we are going to be continuing those efforts, and we are going to be working on programs for restorative justice and alternatives for Fulton County.
But funnily enough, in this role, it would seem that rather than prioritizing the historic cases that affected normal people, she would continue to breed a reputation for using the state's RICO Act to prosecute non-mobsters in cases that were designed to grab headlines. And her next move would make her one of the most infamous prosecutors in American history, dropping an explosive RICO indictment on then former President Donald Trump for alleged election interference in Georgia. The long-shot prosecution is still ongoing and has been complicated infinitely by Trump's dramatic 2024 election victory. But regardless of the outcome, the case was at least initially a huge success in raising Fanny Willis's profile in the legal profession, as extensive coverage of the case and her role in it would circulate in media all over America. However, it seems that even the president wasn't a big enough fish for Fanny Willis, and as she had firmly committed to cleaning up the streets of Atlanta that had been plagued by the rising violent crime rates fueled by gangs, the 2022 indictment of Young Thug and the YSL members would soon become the new biggest media moment of her career. Fanny Willis would be a formidable opponent, but on the other side, Young Thug and his crew would seek the services of one superstar lawyer who might just be able to make magic happen. On the opposite side of the legal battle was Young Thug's defense lawyer Brian Steele. Steele had grew up in Queens, New York, and had initially contemplated a career on Wall Street until he visited the stock exchange trading floor and experienced the soulless, cutthroat environment firsthand, which convinced him to study law instead. He would first aim at a career as a tax attorney, but one case involving a 13-year-old kid charged as an adult for murder would change his mind, and afterwards Steele would move to Georgia to become a public defender, before eventually starting his own law firm and climbing the legal ladder to become one of the top defense lawyers in the state. According to Brian Steele, he had been representing Young Thug for about a decade before the YSL RICO dropped, and in 2018, Thug can even be heard mentioning him in the song Oh Okay with Gunna and Lil Baby, bragging about Brian Steele being his lawyer, which showed that in Atlanta legal circles, Brian Steele has been a force to be reckoned with for some time. However, it was during the YSL RICO trial when Brian Steele would become known nationwide, as Thug's fans would come to love his genuine connection with the rapper and his captivating and explosive performances in the courtroom. If fame was what the prosecution were looking for, this is indeed what they would get, as the trial of Young Thug and YSL was set to become one of the biggest and most high-profile trials in Georgia history, being live-streamed on numerous media platforms and racking up millions of views. The trial became a media circus that fans, haters, and regular people interested in true crime began following with great interest. But there was one person who likely felt even worse to have gotten wrapped up in this case, and that, of course, was Thug's label mate Gunna, who had barely even known Thug when many of the more serious crimes in the indictment had actually taken place. But nevertheless, after being wrapped up in the indictment, due to his close proximity to Thug, Gunna unfortunately had a tough decision to make, one that would ultimately end up destroying his reputation in the rap game for good. Sergio Kitchens, better known as Gunna, also faced RICO charges alongside Young Thug and the rest of the YSL gang. But unlike many in the indictment who were charged with some pretty serious crimes, Gunna was in fact charged with just one count, that being conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. Gunna was then further mentioned as being part of 10 overt acts in furtherance of the overall gang conspiracy, the more serious ones being connected to the September 2017 traffic stop, when Gunna and Thug were found to be in possession of a stolen gun and a mixture of illegal party supplies, and a May 2018 traffic stop where Gunna and Thug's car had nothing illegal in it, but their alleged entourage in a separate car were found to be carrying weapons with high-capacity magazines. But besides these two traffic stop arrests, the overt acts would also include some very random music releases and social media posts, such as the music video for Lil Keed and Gunna's song Fox 5, where Gunna can be seen wearing the YSL pendant and rapping the incredibly generic line, "We got 10 100-round choppers." The music video for the song Take It to Trial by Thug, Yak Gotti and Gunna, where Gunna raps some equally ambiguous bars about guns and goons. And the music video for the song Ski by Thug and Gunna, where Gunna mentions toting an FN gun, while his friends keep Glocks and that he's rolling with the Rollin' 60s. And as a cherry on top, the indictment would also include a photo of Gunna and Thug posted on social media, together with the caption, "Slat Business YSL 4L. In all seriousness, the claims that these acts were somehow proof of Gunna's participation in the criminal street gang YSL seem sketchy at best, and much more likely, the prosecutors were simply thirsty at attaching him to the indictment due to his name and fame, and in order to possibly get him to cooperate and spill the beans on bigger fish like Thug. Unfortunately for Gunna, despite the state seemingly having rather poor evidence against him, his legal battle would get off to a poor start, as on May the 23rd, the judge would deny his bond about a week after his initial arrest.
Today in a Fulton County courtroom, a judge denied bond to many alleged members of the Young Slime Life street gang. This includes Sergio Kitchens, aka rapper Gunna. We are still waiting to hear if the judge will also deny bond for rapper Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams.
About a month later, Gunna would release a long statement on Twitter in which he would start by mentioning his hit song Pushing P and noting how 2022 had been one of the best years of his life, before recounting the difficult circumstances that he'd grown up in and how hard he'd worked to better his life and the lives of his family. He would also accuse the prosecution of painting a false picture of him and unfairly targeting black artists, while in the caption, he would explain how he was being kept in lockdown 22 hours a day and in a cell with no windows. Unfortunately, that would do little to improve his circumstances, and in July, his bond was denied again, with the judge citing fears of Gunna being a threat to the community and possibly trying to intimidate a witness.
This morning, rapper Gunna remains in jail. Thursday, a Fulton County judge once again denied him bond. The judge says Gunna, whose legal name is Sergio Kitchens, is still a threat to the community and could try to intimidate witnesses. Gunna and rapper Young Thug, whose legal name is Jeffrey Williams, are both still pleading for release from jail while their cases play out in court. Their trial isn't until January of next year.
Clearly, the chances of Gunna getting bail were practically non-existent. So after around half a year of incarceration, it would seem like Gunna had finally had enough, and in a surprising turn of events in December 2022, Gunna would accept a plea deal, resulting in his immediate release. Gunna would plead guilty to just one count of racketeering conspiracy in a move known as the Alford plea, which allowed him to maintain his innocence while accepting that a jury might convict him based on the evidence. While this decision allowed Gunna to avoid a lengthy trial, not to mention a possible prison sentence, it also triggered an immediate backlash within the hip-hop community, because while Gunna would put out a statement following his release where he denied any kind of snitching, a video would be leaked that showed Gunna repeatedly saying "yes ma'am" during the hearing for his plea deal in court, which many people took as a sign of cooperation with the authorities, as Gunna was essentially admitting to the court that YSL was indeed a criminal gang before Thug had a chance to clear his name at trial.
A Sergio Kitchens press statement suggests in the case of his Alford plea, he's, quote, maintaining my innocence toward the same charge, unquote. It says, while I've agreed to always be truthful, I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way. In court, some startling statements.
Please state after each statement whether or not you agree or acknowledge that statements are truthful, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I became affiliated with YSL around 2016. Is that true as it pertains to you, Mr. Kitchens?
Yes, ma'am.
YSL is a music label and a gang, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
You were present when law enforcement officers stopped the vehicle in which you were present along with Jeffrey Williams, wherein hydrocodone, methamphetamines, and a firearm were recovered. These items did not belong to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you acknowledge acknowledge the following statement. I recognize, accept, and deeply regret that my talent and music indirectly furthered YSL the gang to the detriment of my community. YSL as a gang must end. Is that your statement or acknowledgement?
Yes.
The situation became the subject of public debate, with Gunna finding himself being labelled a rat or a snitch by many people who believed that he had betrayed Thug and YSL. Gunna's lawyer, Steve Sado, who likely felt guilty for the backlash that Gunna was experiencing, would also comment on the matter, saying that Gunna did not snitch and pointing out that the plea statement cannot be used in court against any of the other defendants, while also linking a Rolling Stone article where an unnamed source with knowledge of the case would explain that the plea agreement had been worded in such a way that wouldn't have allowed either the prosecution or the defense to call Gunna to testify at trial. But Gunna, on the other hand, would remain relatively quiet about the matter. But in January, he would announce his return to social media, whilst also saying that there's only one side and that he's still representing YSL, the music label, as well as saying Free Young Thug and Yak Gotti. After this, Gunna would stay relatively quiet again until June 2023, when he would release his first song after getting out, titled Bread and Butter. In the track, he addresses the snitching rumors head on, questioning why would he pay his lawyers millions of dollars if not to avoid testifying, and that he never gave a statement or agreed to take the stand, so he still stands on his actions. Bread and Butter was soon followed by a full-length album titled A Gift and a Curse, with the concept of the album seemingly exploring both the gift of his creativity and freedom that he had back after accepting the plea, but also the curse of getting those charges and the subsequent loss of respect in the rap game after being labelled as a snitch. The project was a huge success, debuting at number 3 on the Billboard 200 with 85,000 albums sold in the first week. The album was also well received outside of the US, charting in 15 countries. The project was critically acclaimed too, with publications like Rolling Stone giving it a glowing review, noting how Gunna had reminded everyone just why they loved his music with this project, and praising him for meticulously clapping back at those snitching allegations. Now, I personally really enjoyed the project, and it was one of my favourite releases of 2023, snitching or not. And it proved that at least musically, Gunna was here to stay, and the allegations certainly couldn't stop him at least making great solo music. However, only about a week after Gunna's album released, Young Thug would come out with his own album titled Business is Business, with the release of the album just so happening to coincide with his jail call to Lil Durk getting leaked online, showing that Thug was feeling anything but love for his former protege.
Hey Dirk, I know I want you on. I'm dropping this surprise album on the same day Buddy dropped his album. That shit coming up soon. I need a verse from you. If you feel like replying, if you feel like you want to reply to it, saying or something, man, don't do it. Drop it on my album. I'm dropping a surprise album on the same day that drop. Send your verse in, bro. I want you and Wham on the same song. Send your verse in. I love you, bro.
Surprisingly, an audio engineer who worked on the album would also reveal how some of the songs on the project had been recorded through the jail phone, which meant that the project was a mixture of pre-recorded songs and some new material.
It's weird, you can tell it's like on the phone, but in the record, now that you've heard the vocals isolated and stuff, you can tell, but when it came out, people were like, yo, how's he talking about, how'd you guys do this in the past? I was like, nah, this was like all on the phone.
And this also meant that some lyrics dissing snitches, like this one from the track titled Jonesboro, could well have been aimed at Gunna directly. The album's opening track, Parade on Cleveland, also includes a phone call between Young Thug and Drake, where Thug can be heard saying a cryptic message of how he's pushing Peter better than any Peter pusher around, which sounds a bit like another diss towards Gunna, whose last hit song with Thug had been the track Pushing P. The title of the album, Business is Business, may also have been a low-key dig at Gunna, as this was also the name of his own classic 2018 song with Lil Baby. And the same could also be said about the cover art, which depicted Thug in the courtroom along with 8 other people, a likely reference to the fact that there were only 9 defendants left at this point due to their pleas and severances being taken. This, again, probably being a coded diss towards Gunna, who was no longer standing beside Thug against the state at this point. Like Gunna, Thug's album was also very successful, hitting number 2 on Billboard 200 with 89,000 units sold in the first week. In fact, beating out Gunna's project on both sales and the charting position. However, quality-wise, this wasn't a particularly engaging project, and it honestly felt a little bit rushed. The project was made up of mostly old recordings, and it had the vibe of a posthumous album made by someone that was actually still alive. This sentiment being shared by Rolling Stone, who would call Thug's sound diminished on this project. But despite Thug seemingly harboring animosity towards his old friend, Gunna would seemingly attempt to keep things cordial. And still, in his XXL magazine interview in April 2024, he would say that he still has love for Thug, as well as diplomatically saying that none of the other rappers who have commented on him being a snitch know what actually happened legally, since they're not part of the case. But it would seem like Thug wasn't receptive to Gunna's attempts at mending the relationship, because after Thug took a plea deal and got released sometime later, he would make a post and delete tweet where he made it clear that there was nothing to amend and telling telling Gunna publicly to stop acting like they were still friends on the internet and saying that he doesn't even know him. Gunna's lawyer, on the other hand, would make another post defending Gunna's decision to take the Alford plea, arguing once again that Gunna's plea had done no harm to Thug's case, and then pointing out that in the end, Gunna and Thug had both done the same thing by pleading guilty by accepting a RICO charge. But the difference was that while Thug had to spend 30 months in jail and receive a whopping 15-year probation with incredibly strict conditions, Gunna had been able to record music and tour the world for that entire period, and he had also no probation and no conditions, adding that if some people really still want to blame someone for such a great deal, then they should blame the lawyer. At the end of the day, the downfall of Gunna's public reputation says a lot more about how rap fans are obsessed with exposing snitches these days than it does about Gunna actually being a snitch. Ever since prolific snitch exposer 1090 Jake took over the YouTube rap game, it seems like every rap fan is now looking for any excuse to label a rapper a snitch. I know a lot of people feel like Gunna betrayed Thug, but realistically, Gunna's statement had no bearing on Thug's ultimate outcome. In fact, it would be one particular person who did outright snitch on Thug, taking the stand on behalf of the state to save himself, that ironically ended up saving Thug in the end, as the biggest snitch of the whole case that the prosecution were relying on to bury Thug ended up being so erratic, unreliable, and untrustworthy that his involvement actually played a big part in collapsing the state's argument against Thug. And in the process, that super snitch ended up becoming a superstar from the stand, making himself rich in the process. I'm of course talking about YSL Woody, but ironically, the state's star witness would prove to be incredibly unreliable, untrustworthy, and just a complete loose cannon. And with the whole case resting on the shoulders of this one unhinged individual, the prosecution's chances would be precarious. And in the end, it would be the unexpected maneuvers of this superstar witness that ended up destroying the whole case against Thug, as one man would haphazardly bring down the entire case, as well as two judges, maybe by accident or maybe on purpose, ultimately giving Thug a passage out of this trouble. Because at the start, it looked like one man was going to be the downfall of Thug, but in the end, that one person actually ended up saving Thug. And of course that man was none other than YSL Woody. Kenneth Copeland, better known as Lil Woody or YSL Woody, was born in 1991 in Atlanta as the 7th child of a huge family of 10 kids. Woody would spend some of his early formative years in the infamous Bowen Homes projects in the Buckhead neighborhood on the west side of Atlanta, aka Zone 1. Woody, on the other hand, would move out of Buckhead long before this iconic beef due to his father unfortunately passing away in the early 2000s when Woody was just about 10 years old, causing his mother to move the family back to their original stomping grounds in the Mechanicsville neighborhood near downtown Atlanta, where they would rely on government assistance and his mother's hustle to get by, their home allegedly doubling as a trap house. Later in 2008, tragedy would strike again when Woody's mother passed away, leaving Woody without any parental guidance at only 17 years old, which would cause him to separate from his family, getting kicked out of school and hitting the streets full time.
2008, I lost my mom. When I lost my mom, I was just like, well, you know, this is the only person that care about me. This is what my life was based off my mama. She the only one had that control over me. So when she died, I removed myself from the rest of my family and just took to the streets.
Already the following year in 2009, a 17-year-old Woody had his first serious run-in with the law as he was arrested and charged for carrying a concealed weapon, a charge that he apparently took for his friend.
So why were you carrying a gun during this time?
I actually wasn't carrying. It's old, so somebody else had it. I took it from him because I seen the police going after him. But somebody else was watching me and seen me take it from him.
Oh, so you're trying to help your friend out, basically?
I helped somebody out.
Right, and in turn, you got a gun charge.
Yeah,
Over the next few years, Woody's life would spiral further as he would keep going to jail numerous times for various charges, like theft, carrying a weapon, battery, obstruction, aggravated assault, participation in a criminal street gang, and even making terroristic threats. This likely being around the time when Woody was allegedly running with the DRC clique, aka the Roc Crew. But in 2013, Woody would truly get pushed over the edge due to the death of his best friend DB, who was killed in a drive-by.
After he got killed, you said, I had to go terrorize. What does that mean?
Exactly what it sounded like it meant.
Driven by grief and anger, from here, Woody would develop a fearsome reputation in the streets of Atlanta, and it was this reputation that also seemingly caught the attention of none other than Young Thug, who would end up inviting Woody to become part of his entourage.
And how'd you guys initially meet?
He just called me out of the blue. I knew him, I knew of him, you feel me? Like, everybody from Atlanta knew of him as he was coming up. And I've been around him a few times, shot dice with him. But he just called me out of the blue one day, like, hey, come see me. You wanna go on shows with me? And, you know, we went from there.
Interestingly, in his No Jumper interview, Woody would even seem to insinuate that him meeting Thug had something to do with the infamous incident of Rich Homie Quan's father's barbershop getting shot at.
That barbershop don't have nothing to do with, nothing. You know what I'm saying? That barbershop just on some bankheads type stuff.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I grew up in Bowen Homes, so
So he ain't have a reason to go out and just go on stage and say that. He was just really just choosing sides.
So when the barbershop happened, Thug and Rich Homie was cool. To be honest, that's how me and Thug got together.
Yeah, so how did you meet Thug?
I guess you didn't get him.
Through Rich Homie? Break it down again.
It's still an open case.
Alright, for sure.
However, as Woody would recollect with Brian Steele during the trial, his time in Thug's entourage only lasted about a year between 2014 and 2015, during which time Woody became sort of like an enforcer for Young Thug, something that even earned him a mention in the hit song Halftime, where Thug raps that if anybody messes with him, Woody will come and shoot them in the head.
Going back to 2014, going into 2015, you met Jeffrey Williams for a short period of time that you were, my word would be hanging out with him, but that's a bad word, that you were in his company and he was in your company, a short period of time. Is that fair to say?
Right.
And when you met him, you already said that he was very popular.
Yes.
True. Is it fair to say that you and he knew each other, but like after your birthday in July of 2014 and really stopped because you were in custody anyway, by July 2015? That's the period of time that you knew each other? Is that true?
No, I didn't. From 2014, I met him like at the end of 2014.
And then you already told the jury, but you got locked up a lot. The police kept locking you up in January, February, March, April, May, and then June, you were locked up in federal custody for 51 months. True?
Yes.
Okay. And that's really the only period that you knew Jeffrey.
Yeah.
The only time that you were around him or he was around you. True?
Well, really, we wasn't even together every day. I was out in the neighborhood.
Jeffrey never had the pleasure of having you featured in one of his songs. Is that true?
No, I ain't never been in his song.
Okay. And Jeffrey never was featured in one of your songs. Is that true?
No, me and him don't have music together.
All right. But he did put you in one song of his. You know the song Halftime?
I'm listening.
Do you remember the line, and I'm not saying this a quote, but something effective, if you mess with me, Woody will come up and pop you in the noggin. And if that's not a quote, I'm not trying to misquote it, but that's what is that something like what it says in that song?
Yeah.
And the song is Halftime, right?
Yes.
Wildly popular song.
Yes.
However, as Woody will claim, he was anything but happy about this shout-out, because while the song had allegedly been made in 2014, when everything was still good between them, it was only released in April 2015, during a time when Woody was in a tricky spot in the streets. He found himself at the center of a violent feud between YSL and the Atlanta branch of the Inglewood family's blood gang. As mentioned before, this feud allegedly began in late 2014 and saw Woody's personal conflict with Big Nut's brother, Shell Kel, aka Kelvin Watts, playing a big role in the back-and-forth violent encounters that would ensue. Not long after the Inglewood family's second in command and the man behind the careers of Rich Homie Quan and YFN Lucci, Donovan Big Nut Thomas, would be killed in a brutal drive-by shooting. And while no one knew for sure who killed Nut, suspicion immediately fell on YSL, particularly Woody, whose girlfriend's parents' house would be shot up already the same night that Nut was murdered. These events led Woody to make perhaps the most consequential decision of his life, as at this point he began cooperating with police. There would initially be a murder charge against Woody himself, but these would eventually be dismissed. However, Woody would still remain on the Atlanta PD's radar, and already the following month in February, he would once again find himself in their custody, eventually getting released in mid-March. This helps to explain why Woody wasn't exactly thrilled when he would hear that Thug was labeling him as a shooter in his newest songs.
You learned that the police was using that song. They asked you about that song.
No, they told me.
Yeah.
One of them told me that I think I had got out, I got out one of the jails and they got me the next day. And they were like, yeah, man, now you at the top of our radar. It was something like, and he pissed me off when he said it.
He being the detective?
No, it wasn't no detective, it was the police.
Okay. The police officer upset you when they said
I think it was Dennis that said it. It was one of them that said it to me.
Okay.
A month later, in April 2015, at the height of the alleged war between YSL and the Inglewood families, which had allegedly led to dozens of shootings and several murders, Woody would walk into Dunbar Center Gymnasium with a loaded Diamondback 223 assault rifle tucked inside a H&M shopping bag, which he would then leave on the bleachers while he played basketball, prompting a concerned citizen to call the police, who would then arrive, finding the rifle in the bag, and later arresting Woody, who would eventually be hit with federal charges, landing him in prison for several years. The police would also find out that the rifle had actually been purchased by Quindarius Zachary, also known as YSL member Lil D, who would later end up being one of the many state's witnesses in the YSL RICO trial. Woody would eventually be released in late 2019, and at the beginning of 2020, he would attempt to follow in the footsteps of Young Thug, beginning to drop his own music, starting with a song aptly called First Day Out. And despite being a snitch behind the scenes, the song still included self-incriminating lyrics where he rapped that he would have people killed and that YSL run Atlanta. In March, Woody would even release a full mixtape, humbly titled I Am the Streets, showing that Woody was leaning heavily on his reputation as a certified gangster. One of his music videos even started with a hilarious intro where Woody can be seen in a helicopter looking over Atlanta like he's goddamn Tony Montana. He was also still seemingly close with other YSL members, as Yak Gotti would actually perform at the mixtape's listening party. And in the few interviews that he would do as an up-and-coming artist, he would proudly rep the gang any chance that he got.
What's going on, man? It's your boy Richard Face TV, man. We back in the building, we back working, we back grinding. I had to pull up on my boy Lil Woody, man. Pop up.
Sam, man. YSL everything. Man, yeah, man. Lil Woody, YSL for like 30 deep. Freehand entertainment, man. Shout out to the progress report. Yeah, they Lil Woody freehand entertainment. Just jumped out of the pool with Dirty Glove Best. Slap YSL for life.
But Woody simply couldn't stay out of trouble, and soon he would find himself back in jail once again, this time staying locked up until 2021, and when he was released, he would stay out for only a few months before he was arrested again during a traffic stop after he was supposedly swerving. And while Woody technically only had a loaded magazine on him, it was enough to charge him with another weapons offense, potentially landing him up to 10 years in prison. This arrest would lead to another interrogation, one that would later leak to the public during the YSL trial in 2023. During the questioning, it would immediately become clear that this wasn't Woody's first rodeo in the interrogation room by the way that the officers were treating him. Woody spoke to law enforcement, including investigators from the DA's office that were part of the gang unit and agents from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, making it clear that multiple agencies were closely monitoring him and YSL. The police would read Woody his charges.
Unfortunately, there's a gun in the car.
A gun with her?
In your car. I did a search warrant for the vehicle, there's a gun in the car, and you had a magazine on you when they picked you up. Federally, they can charge you with the ammunition. Statewide, you're probably going to get charged with a gun.
I'm going to get charged with a gun? Mm-hmm. There was no gun
there was a gun in the car.
They would also make it clear that they couldn't promise him anything in exchange for his cooperation.
So if you want to talk to us today, I cannot promise you anything. I can't make you any promises. Listen to me, I can't make you any promises. I can't offer you anything today. That's not what we can do.
What we can do is, if you do cooperate, we could talk to the DA and let them know you did cooperate. And that's the most that she can make a decision at that standpoint of what's going on.
But despite the lack of guarantees, Woody seemed willing to say whatever it took to save himself.
The information I had, they want to hit you right now.
I mean, we can pass it to them.
I'm saying you pass it to them. I'm thinking something going to happen today.
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Somebody's supposed to get killed tonight.
Who?
You know.
He offered detectives information on a murder plot that coincidentally occurred the same day as his arrest.
I can tell y'all this much right here. I know people are going to go do it. I can get the time when they gonna go do it. So y'all can catch them in the air.
He also painted a picture of a relentless and bloodthirsty young thug who is allegedly targeting Nut's brother, Kel.
So I've been put in bad situations. Trying to help people out, trying to stop me. They're not gonna stop. He's not gonna stop till Kel did. I'm telling you now, I was just right there with him and I seen him like, I know him. He won him. Don't give a f***. He don't care who he is. He don't care. I'm telling you that.
At one point, he even tried to play detective himself, suggesting a sting operation while emphasizing how reckless Thug had become at this point.
Right now, what time it is?
7:04.
If I could be released before 11 to 12 o'clock, to show you how serious I am, if I could be released, let people see me and Mike coming out of jail together. Just hit the jail for whatever. Y'all can be right there to see me meet up with them and discuss it. Well, however y'all want to take it by then, y'all see where Cuddy ran in, y'all can catch them in the act.
What do you mean?
So he not moving how
he used to move reckless. He moved different. But he wanted so bad that he's back reckless.
Woody's troubles wouldn't end here, because the following month in November, his girlfriend, a police officer, was arrested for interfering with an investigation into Woody's activities.
The former City of South Fulton police officer accused of abusing her badge to protect her boyfriend. Investigators say 27-year-old Aaliyah Jackson, who joined the city's police force in 2019, was booked into jail last month on felony charges after she tried to interfere with a major police operation targeting Metro Atlanta's most notorious drug dealers and gang members. Following his arrest, police say that Jackson tried to delete her boyfriend's Instagram page containing photos of gang activity. She's also accused of trying to disable his phone, which police were storing as evidence.
However, by 2022, the state's gun charges relating to Woody's 2021 arrest were mysteriously dropped, just a month before the YSL members would be arrested in the giant RICO case. This move might have highlighted how heavily the prosecution were relying on the testimony of Woody, who was now expected to provide critical insights into YSL's structure, naming names and detailing specific violent acts that were linked to Young Thug. However, this was soon after followed by a leaked paperwork, which would paint Woody as the main snitch on the case. This was then followed by the leak of the 2021 interrogation video, which would show Woody snitching in 4K. Perhaps due to these leaks, on June the 7th, 2024, when it finally came time for Woody to be called to the stand, even with immunity, he would refuse to testify.
But before the jurors were called in, Copeland's attorney says his client planned to invoke his Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination.
What he has told me is that he repeatedly told the DA's office that he did not wish to cooperate, did not wish to testify.
The judge told Copeland there's an order granting him immunity, which prevents his testimony from being used against him, which means...
So you're required to testify. So, if you don't testify, the state's probably going to ask me to jail you, and I'm probably going to do that.
At this point, Woody was held in contempt, and he ended up being sent back to the Fulton County Jail.
But when the state asked exactly how old he was...
I plead the fifth. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get you a step outside?
That's when the judge ordered Copeland to be handcuffed.
This court holds you in willful contempt, and we'll see you on Monday.
The following Monday, the judge would meet with the prosecution and Woody, together with his legal representation, before that day's proceedings, in a secret ex parte meeting that the defense team was apparently not made aware of. This meeting would arguably walk a thin line between simply informing Woody about the consequences of his actions on the witness stand and actually threatening Woody with consequences in order to force him to testify. Whatever the case, in the end, Woody would agree to testify. However, once back on the witness stand, he would immediately begin trolling the prosecution, giving them a taste of what was about to take place.
Do you see Shannon in the courtroom today?
Well, I got a vision problem.
Okay.
I can't see that far.
All right, so if you want to stand up and look around the courtroom and look around the entire courtroom, tell me if you see Shannon in the courtroom today. Do you need to sit down?
Nah, I can right here. They ain't had nothing to drink.
The next day, on June the 11th, Woody would continue his antics by firing his lawyer.
Sir, Mr. Copeland, is it your desire to release your counsel at this point in time?
She's fired.
She's fired? Okay.
Do what I need a lawyer for.
From here on, Woody would go on to be a terrible witness for the state, commonly delaying proceedings, misinterpreting questions and instructions, and frustrating prosecutors throughout the trial.
I guess.
And when it came to Woody's many interviews with the police throughout the years, he would negatively affect the prosecution's case by claiming that he had been lying to the authorities in interviews that had dated all the way back to 2015.
Okay, let me make myself clear, right? Because you keep asking me about things I done told investigators in the past. I can't say from when to when, but so much was going on, my name was on everything. The police kept coming to grab me. Every time they grabbed me, I had a different story for them. I know 100% facts, and I'm telling you now, I was not truthful. I was saying whatever they wanted me to say. I was saying whatever I could come up with. I was trying my best to convince them that I didn't do nothing, that I'm an innocent person, and that people put their hands on me.
But Woody's story wasn't just playing out in the courtroom, because when court wasn't in session, Woody would be spotted on Instagram living his best life. Woody's testimony would eventually come to a screeching halt when the defense were able to successfully use that ex parte meeting to recuse the judge from the case, a major development that we'll discuss in more detail later. But with a new judge in place, the trial eventually resumed in August. And to everyone's delight except the prosecution, the newly appointed judge would request that Woody re-testify, with Woody this time even getting Young Thug to laugh along with his antics.
Yes, no, I don't recall. Did Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing members of If Gang to his apartment?
So did you have an issue with Rich Homie?
I'm asking you for what you told the police.
And I'm answering you. I just told you several times. I tell the police anything.
Okay. Do you recall talking about the shooting?
After the state concluded their questioning of Woody, more revelations about the extent of his alleged lies would emerge during cross-examination.
There you're saying that you gave the card to Javante, who gave it to Lil Mike and Quez, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you would agree that detectives Gaither and Dennis are telling you we've never even heard of Lil Mike and Quez, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland, Lil Mike is not a real person, is he?
No.
Brian Steele, Young Thug's lawyer, would question Woody about a jail call where he told another party that prosecutors had begged him to testify, while Woody also claimed to have never committed any crimes for Thug.
Did Jeffrey ever give you any money, ever, for committing a crime for him?
I never committed a crime for him.
That was my next question. Okay.
After finally being done testifying, Woody would then begin showing support for Young Thug publicly, and he would even start his own YouTube channel where he would post a highly emotional interview apologizing to Thug and everyone else for the pain that he caused.
But if you could walk in that courtroom and say one thing to Thug right now, what would that be?
I'm sorry.
What you sorry for?
The pain, the suffering, everything I caused on him and his family, society, the courts. I'm sorry for everything. I wish I had the strength and the mindset I have now. I'm just. I never forgive myself.
And the publicity from the trial began making Woody a celebrity on social media. In August 2024, he would also resurrect his music career with an incredibly titled song, I Don't Recall, which referenced his repeated use of the phrase during the testimony. He was also invited to numerous paid interviews and hood vlogs, as well as participating in several speed dating shows that garnered millions of views on YouTube, inflating his ego and his bank account. He even linked up with one of hip-hop's perhaps notorious and proud snitches, Charleston White, to collect a nice bag, something that he would often flaunt on social media. And despite his new reputation as a snitch, Woody would continue moving through the streets of Atlanta without a care in the world, seemingly trusting that his former reputation as a fearless shooter would still protect him, even though he was now a snitch.
How do you feel about people calling you, labeling you a snitch?
It's only on the internet. I haven't ran into one person that said it to my face, and I ain't saying it like on no gangster stuff. Like I pray that nobody don't provoke me. You feel what I'm saying? Cause I ain't mess with nobody. I ain't looking for trouble. So if I'm out and somebody walk up and say I'm a snitch or whatever, I'm slap. I'm a bust from one or the other.
But in a twist that perhaps nobody could have seen coming, the trial not only pushed Woody into the spotlight as a state's witness, but also made him a celebrity. Woody's emotional breakdowns, combative exchanges, and sarcastic responses, as well as frequent lapses in memory, combined with his reluctance to cooperate despite being granted immunity, made him both highly entertaining and garnered widespread sympathy towards him from fans. But these antics also made him one of the worst star witnesses that the prosecution could have ever imagined, and his performance alone made their case infinitely weaker. But as mentioned, there was also another person in the trial whose missteps would arguably play an even bigger role in letting Young Thug eventually walk free. That person was Judge Glanville. By the end of 2023 going into 2024, the YSL trial had become a complete farce. At one point, someone actually hacked a courtroom Zoom feed and yelled, "Free Thug, mistrial."
Free Thug, mistrial! Free Thug, mistrial! Free Thug, mistrial! Free Thug, mistrial!
The defense attorneys came under scrutiny during the trial for improper behavior. On February the 16th, 2024, attorney Nicole Fegan was charged with participating in criminal street activity and evidence tampering for allegedly telling a gunman to dispose of the murder weapon, with that case being separated from the trial in May 2023 and that attorney still awaiting trial. And Judge Ural D. Glanville, who was presiding over the YSL trial, became a key character central to the courtroom drama. Glanville was often clashing with Young Thug's defense attorney Brian Steele, and the courtroom exchanges between Steele, the prosecution, and Judge Glanville added another layer of tension to an already intense trial, with things at times spiraling completely out of control to the level of personal attacks and petty arguments in front of the judge.
Apologize that I'm getting tempered, but I've never been treated like this. You talk about professionalism every week. Professionalism is lacking with one lawyer here. It has never been. I don't even like coming to court. I used to love this. I would die for what we do. I used to say, I'm dying. I would die. I couldn't choose a better profession. If I had litigated with Miss Love, I would.
Your Honor, could we strike the
No,
hominem
no, I'm
attacks?
speaking.
Could we strike that?
Okay, hey, everybody, calm down. Everybody, both of you, please be seated.
Judge, I'm not
Both
done.
of you, please be seated.
You have to do something.
However, the judge, to be fair, was also tough on the prosecution, admonishing them for making baseless objections.
Gang signs that you saw when you were brought in here to testify in this, quote, gang case, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, what was the gang signs?
Hold on. What's the basis for your objection?
Well, with respect to...
What's the basis for your objection?
Born first time.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Adams.
Come here. What was the gang sign you saw being thrown up that day?
No idea.
No idea?
None.
Okay.
The clashes between the defense and prosecution would continue to escalate as efforts were made by Thug's team to take down the opposition. However, these efforts failed as on April the 4th, 2024, the judge denied a motion to have the lead prosecutor removed. But it didn't take long for things to escalate, and soon the defense would be trying to have the judge removed. On July the 1st, 2024, the trial was put on hold when Young Thug's lawyer learned of the secret and improper meeting between the judge, prosecution, and YSL Woody without the defense being present or informed. The defense would file to have Judge Glanville recused as a result of this meeting, but that did not go to plan. Judge Glanville would be confronted by Brian Steele about the secret meeting, with the judge furiously asking how the defense learned about this secret meeting, with Judge Steele staying more solid than Gunna and refusing to say.
Supposedly, in chambers, this honorable court reporter at times, honorable court at times, district attorney or district attorneys from the DA's office, as well as investigators, sheriff deputies, Mr. Copeland and his counsel met together. None of the defense team, to my knowledge, was aware that this was going on. And then somehow that email was CC'd to me. That never...
Mr. Steele, can I interrupt you for just a second? I'm kind of disturbed because that's ex parte. All that was an ex parte conversation. How did you find out about any of that?
Well, I'm disturbed too. What I was told was that Mr. Copeland said...
And you haven't answered my question yet.
I'm not going to answer that question.
You're not?
No, I will not answer that question.
Why will you not answer that question?
Because I want to make sure that what I say is accurate, and I'm not trying to get anybody else.
I'm asking you, how did you get this information?
I'm not telling the court. What I'm saying is based upon information.
Okay, well listen, if you don't tell me how you got this information, then you and I are going to have some problems.
Brian Steele truly put it on the judge, accusing the court of attempting to intimidate Woody into testifying, and as you can imagine, Judge Glanville was furious, threatening Brian Steele with contempt of court and storming off the stand as Brian Steele claimed in a shocking revelation that apparently Woody even admitted to murdering Big Nut during this meeting.
Mr. Steele, I still want to know, how did you come upon this information? Who told you?
What I want to know is why wasn't I there? Why did
Sir,
this
I'm going to
happen?
hold you in contempt if you don't tell me who this.
I'm
tell me who this information
I
was
don't want to
come
be
from.
held in contempt.
Well,
I'm not
then,
answering that question. That's attorney-client privilege information. I am not answering
attorney-client privilege. Unless you were in my chambers, that's the only way you can figure out.
I am telling
I tell you
you
what, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. If you don't tell me,
don't
who
have
you,
to. I'm
if
going
you
to
don't tell me who it is, I'm going to put you. In, I'm going to put you in contempt
I
because
understand.
that is not attorney-client privilege.
Attorney work product privilege. I am not.
How did you get that information supposedly from my chambers? Did somebody tell you?
I'm not. You should have told me.
You got 5 minutes.
Well, you know, I don't need it. I want to continue. This is what I was told. Mr. Copeland made statements that he admitted to killing Donovan Thomas and was. Don't take my notes. No.
When they returned, things were no better, and Steele and the judge would go back and forth, with Glanville demanding to know how Brian Steele found out about this secret meeting. But Steele refused to budge, and Judge Glanville would interestingly say that he has an idea of how Steele got that information.
Who you got it from. I'm not asking you sum and substance of anything as of yet, okay? But I need you to tell me how you got the information. If you don't tell me how you got the information, I'm going to hold you in contempt.
I understand. I don't want to be held in contempt.
And I don't want to hold you in contempt, but this is so sacrosanct to have a conversation in my chambers parroted to you and others. It is that serious.
Yeah, and that's why I raised it. It is that serious that we should have been there, and it shouldn't have happened. I'm not saying you're ordering, but to give you information, and you're saying it's not sub and substance, but I'm telling you, I can't do that under the bar rules.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you in contempt, and you can think about it. 5 o'clock today, we'll see where you are at that stand on that point. Because no, that's not what I understand the rule to be. I've not asked you sum and substance of what was said. I asked you how you got it.
I can't do that.
Yes, you can, because I have an idea how you got it.
Well, your idea
I have
may
an
be
idea
wrong.
how you got it, but that's improper, sir.
Your idea may be wrong, and you're asking me to... Listen, I told you the first time.
Now, I'm not 100% sure what Judge Glanville was inferring when he said he had an idea of how Brian Steele got that information and that it was improper, and this is all just my opinion, but the way things fell apart from this meeting, it wouldn't surprise me if Woody and his team were actually playing both sides the whole time, and that perhaps him or his lawyers had somehow let Young Thug's team and Brian Steele know what was going on behind the scenes, with Judge Glanville later inferring that Woody's lawyer might have been the only person who could have provided this information. Clearly, Brian Steele was keeping it more solid than Woody, and continued to refuse to explain how he knew about that secret meeting, even boldly calling for a mistrial as a result.
Your Honor, this is so serious to me. We need a hearing, and I'm moving for a mistrial. It is my understanding, based upon information belief,
From
that
whom?
part of it...
From whom?
Well, I'd like to get the substance first, and then we can talk
Okay, well,
about
then you'll be in custody until then, because
Well, then
because you need to tell me how you got the information. I'm not asking you what was said. You've already kind of given us some snippets of what you said. That tells me that somebody parroted that information to you. So,
but you're assuming something because I told you already.
Well, then, other than if you were sitting,
attorney-client.
unless you were sitting in there with a recorder or Miss Love or Miss Hilton or one of the deputies gave you that information, or Miss Weaver shot you a rough copy of the transcript, there's only one other person that's left.
And so, in an unprecedented move, a vengeful Judge Glanville had Brian Steele arrested for contempt of court, having him taken into custody and sentencing him to spend his upcoming weekends in jail.
I want to know who gave you the information?
I'd like to know what information happened outside our presence. That's really it.
He can go into custody at this point in time. Mr. Steele, I am going to hold you still hold you in summary criminal contempt pursuant to OCGA 15-1-3, subpart 3, for your failure to comply with my earlier order today. I'm going to order that you be taken into custody and incarcerated at Fulton County Jail for no more than 20 days for this contempt. Those 20 days consisting of every weekend for the next 10 weekends.
This imprisonment was later overturned by the Georgia Supreme Court, allowing Steele to avoid serving the sentence.
And the lawyer for rapper Young Thug in the ongoing YSL RICO trial no longer facing a contempt charge. The state Supreme Court officially reversed the decision from the former judge overseeing this trial. And that decision was made by Judge Ural Glanville after Brian Steele here, refused to disclose how he found out about an ex parte meeting. The controversial meeting included the judge, the state, and a key witness, but the defense was not made aware of it prior to the meeting.
And Judge Glanville's efforts to make an example of Brian Steele appeared to backfire spectacularly, as he was ultimately recused from the case once the dust settled on his attempts to lock up Young Thug's leading defense attorney. Following Glanville's recusal, Judge Shakura L. Ingram took over, but she would also eventually have to recuse herself due to a conflict of interest, as apparently she was connected to courthouse deputy Akiba Stanley, who had been arrested for trying to smuggle contraband to another defendant. That deputy was arrested and even accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a former co-defendant, and Ingram noted that the deputy could be called as a future witness in the case, potentially undermining the public's confidence in the impartiality of the proceedings. Finally, Judge Paige Reese Whitaker took over the case, bringing new leadership and attempting to establish stricter rules and bring order to the proceedings. Ultimately, she would be a breath of fresh air for the case and a blessing for Thug's team. And while the new judge would deny a movement for a mistrial, ultimately, with everything that had happened behind the scenes, the state's case was looking more and more disorganized. And most importantly, the secret meetings and declining reliability of the star witness YSL Woody meant that the prosecution's case was now on shaky ground, meaning that this would now be the perfect time for Thug and his team to apply pressure and use the unfortunate state of things to cut himself a sweet deal. And in the end, news ultimately broke that shocked the world, as off the back of all of this courtroom drama, Thug would finally make the deal of a lifetime and suddenly find himself free once again. After After the dramatic clash between Brian Steele and Judge Glanville, the case against Young Thug seemed to be in terminal decline. Soon, there would be light at the end of the tunnel for Thug and his team, but in the midst of these courtroom dramas, out on the street, there was another tragedy playing out, as on September the 5th, 2024, the hip-hop community woke up to the sad news that another Atlanta rapper that was caught up in this whole drama, Rich Homie Quan, had suddenly passed away at his home. It was later revealed that this was the result of an OD, and while some had later claimed the possibility of foul play, the sad reality is that Rich Homie Quan was just another unfortunate victim of addiction. No doubt, the loss of his friend Big Nut and the tragic decline of his career playing a significant role in his fragile mental state. The death of Rich Homie Quan was a tragic conclusion to the over 10-year story of Atlanta hip-hop, with years of mystery surrounding exactly why his and Young Thug's relationship fell apart. Sadly, small details from the trial and surrounding it painted a picture of Quan heartbroken, betrayed, and scared by YSL allegedly arranging the murder of his friend and mentor. It's hard not to feel like Thug and his people may well have played an indirect role in the mental decline of this clean-hearted Atlanta rap legend, but Quan's death also represented closure for one of the biggest loose ends in this gang-related murder that YSL members were so desperate to disassociate from. The following month after Rich Homie Quan's death, things would be all over as one by one, many of those involved in the case would begin to take advantage of the courtroom disasters and get generous pleas. Quamavius Nichols pled guilty to 1 count of RICO charges, with murder and weapons charges being dropped. He gets a 20-year sentence with only 13 on probation, and then 2 more pleas get given out the next day. Rodalius Ryan, aka Lil Rod, and Marquavius Huey, aka Qua, both took plea deals. Rod pled guilty to a single count of violating the RICO Act, with a murder charge being miraculously dropped in favor of this deal, getting 10 years, which was commuted to time served, as he was apparently incarcerated for a period of time for another murder that he'd committed at age 15. Meanwhile, Qua, initially indicted on 19 charges, copped down to 9 charges, earning him a 25-year sentence, of which he would only need to serve 9. The judge even told Qua that his deal was remarkable, and he was lucky to only have to serve 9 years after facing a potential 3 consecutive life sentences. These were incredibly generous deals, likely made possible by the complete collapse of the trial amid the drama in the courtroom. And after these deals, it just left Young Thug and 2 other co-defendants still on the hook. But it would seem that Thug might just wind up getting the most generous offer after Gunna. The deal that Thug ultimately ended up taking would be absolutely mind-boggling, as on October the 31st, 2024, Young Thug finally agrees a plea deal, pleading guilty to a total of 5 charges, including participating in a criminal street gang, 2 drug charges, and firearms possessions, as well as pleading no contest to the most serious charge of violating the RICO Act, and a charge of occupying a leadership position in a criminal street gang. Nolo contendere, or a no contest plea, is a type of plea where the defendant neither admits or disputes the charge, refusing to admit guilt, but accepting the punishment as if he was pleading guilty, not dissimilar to Gunna's Alford plea. Once this plea was accepted, Young Thug would deliver what was described as a heartfelt speech before leaving the courtroom. Thug started off his speech randomly saying "yes ma'am," which I can't help but think was a subtle dig at Gunna's plea.
Yes ma'am.
As the speech started, my jaw hit the floor, as Thug would make a bold and arrogant speech that seemed to skirt responsibility for what happened completely despite taking a plea. Thug would take full responsibility for his crimes and apologize to his own family for taking up so much of their time at trial.
I take full responsibility for, my crimes or my charges. I want to say sorry to my family, my mom. My mom got 11 kids. I can't say all their names, my managers, my kids that's not here. Really everybody that got something to do with this situation, I want to say sorry for just having so much time investing into this.
Interestingly, the first thing Thug says after that is that he's a smart guy, giving himself a pat on the back as one of the good guys with a good heart.
I am a smart guy, I am a good guy, and I really got a good heart, I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just nice or cool, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height, because it could end bad, and it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, fall on you.
Yes, Thug was basically giving the most self-congratulating apology in history, saying that it was probably because he was too nice and couldn't say no to his killer gang buddies that got him wrapped up in their drama. Thug then pretty much moves straight on to saying that the sentence is up to the judge, but making it clear that he wants to go home today. And weirdly saying that he hopes he bumps into the judge in a bar in the future, inciting chuckles amongst the guards.
I know the choice is yours, it's up to you, and I hope that you allow me to go home today and just trust in me to just do the right thing and never see you again unless it's at a bar in the future or something. out of this type of situation. I promise you I won't ever be in this type of situation again. I'm going away. I've learned from my mistakes.
Thug said that he came from nothing and didn't take full advantage of his opportunities.
Come from nothing and I've made something and I didn't take full advantage of it. I'm sorry.
Thug would then kiss some ass, saying to the new judge that they were the best thing that's ever happened to him, and saying that this new judge finally made everything fair.
Through these last 2.5 years of my life, you are really, truly, honestly, the best thing that has happened to me, because you made everything fair for me and everybody involved on both sides.
Noticing the sheriffs were entertained by some of his comments, he then turned his attention to them as if he was doing a stand-up set, apologizing for them having to spend their time on the trial, but then joking it was good if they at least got paid more.
I'm sorry to the sheriff, everybody, for just having to put extra time in. I know y'all got paid more money, but I'm sorry for y'all having to put this extra time in to be away from y'all family,
Thug continued to beg the judge to allow him to go straight home because of how much good he brings to the world.
You find it in your heart to allow me to go home and be with my family and just do better as a person. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I am. I know the heights I've reached. I know the impact I got on people, period, in the community, all people.
Thug explained over the last 2 years, because he came off drugs, he realized how important he is to people.
These past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late, and maybe it was because I was, probably on drugs or anything, I don't know, but I have came to my senses and I understand what I mean to this world.
Thug went on to say that he's a good guy and will do free shows if they let him out, pointing out that he was doing this anyway.
I am a good guy, I don't mind doing stuff like, free shows, and I always did that. I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars. I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity. And I did like 2 or 3 shows that made like $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. I do things. I put millions of dollars back into my community for real.
Thug goes on to say that he put more back into his community than the other side, in a subtle dig to his ops.
I did more than anybody ever did from my side,
And Thug would go on to say how his rap lyrics have been twisted and that he's going to make more positive music going forward and that he would be a better influence.
But I understand, rap lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you I'm 100% changing that. It's just, I'm older, I'm grown now, and it's just like, I'm smarter, it's more things to rap about. I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too.
The judge responded positively, praising Thug for acknowledging his own influence, but admonishing him for making gang life look cool in his music and saying that he needs to set a better example.
I appreciate that you do realize how much of an impact you have on people. It's past your neighborhood. It's worldwide, especially young people. And having come up from where you came up from and living in and around that, that gangs are damaging to our community. But whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do. Look at him, he's a millionaire. I can do that by being, a gangster in the streets. You need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go.
In the end, the judge claimed to have taken suggestions from both sides and set Thug a sentence of 40 years, but only 5 years to serve, which itself would be commuted to time served for Thug having spent half of it the last 2.5 years behind bars, and saying that the remaining 15 years will be served on probation, which if he completed successfully would commute the remainder of his 40-year sentence.
I am going to impose a sentence, and I've taken a little bit of the suggested special conditions from the defense and a little bit of the special conditions suggested by the prosecution to count 61, also backloaded. So essentially the total sentence is 40 years to serve the first 5 years in prison, but commuted to the time that you have already served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed then by the backloaded 20 years, which can be served in custody and will be served in custody if you are not successful on your probation. If you are successful in completing your 15 years probation, that will be commuted to time served.
And this wouldn't be all. There would be strict conditions on Thug's probation that banned him from Atlanta and required him to make anti-gun and anti-gang presentations to kids, as well as doing 100 hours a year of community service.
All right, special conditions of your probation. After 48 hours from your release, you are to stay away from the metro Atlanta area, and that's defined by the U.S. Census Bureau. It may change, but you can look that up anytime to figure out what that is. For the first 10 years of your probation. During each year of your probation, I'm going to require that you come to the metro Atlanta area and make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year, each year of your probation, at a grade school, a middle school, a boys or girls club, anything like that, that type of group. And if you want to, that presentation can include a benefit concert, and these presentations may count towards your required community service hours, which I'm going to impose, that during each year of your probation, you perform 100 hours of community service.
Thug would also be banned from having contact with gang members, rapping about gangs, tweeting about gangs, or even making gang signs.
And this is required by the fact that there's a gang conviction. You shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of any criminal street gang, include anybody who is named in this indictment, except as absolutely necessary to conduct the lawful business of your musical career. You are in no way to promote any criminal street gang or any criminal street gang activity, including on any social media platform. You are not to utilize any hand signs, terminology, or language that promotes any criminal street gang. You are not to participate in any criminal street gang activity.
After handing down this incredibly generous sentence that effectively allowed Thug to officially claim responsibility for leading the gang that killed Donovan Big Nut Thomas, he'd walk out the courtroom a free man. The prosecution would actually make a request to the judge for the family of Donovan Thomas to make a statement to the court, a request which was duly denied by the judge, who barely pretended to care. In fact, she even defended Thug, saying how he'd already expressed his sorrow to the family, something he did not actually ever do in that slick speech of his, where if you listen carefully, he only apologized to his own family.
Wanted for me to urge the court, due to the fact that the Thomases have been negatively affected incredibly traumatically by what has been discussed by both parties here today, to make a brief statement as she believes that they fall within the exception or within the bounds of Marcy's law. If the court would allow, I understand the court made a ruling earlier as it relates to that. But she wants to record as well as the court reconsider.
All right. Thank you. And I appreciate, well, I cannot even begin to understand what they must, anybody must be going through when they lose a family member to violence or criminal violence. Mr. Williams himself has expressed his own sorrow to the family. I, again, am going to stand by my belief that the appropriate time to hear a victim impact statement from them is at the close of the trial that contains the murder count with regard to their family member.
Before leaving the courtroom, the judge warned Thug that if he violates his probation, he would be right back in front of her, prompting another yes ma'am Gunna style.
Good luck to you. And I'm going to have there better be no violations, but if there are any, you're coming back to see me.
Yeah.
All right.
And just like that, it was over. Thug was discreetly driven away from the courtroom to an undisclosed location, seemingly by Brian Steele himself. Somewhere in the mix, Brian Steele met with reporters doing a victory lap speech outside of the courtroom after his client was freed, saying that he felt Thug would have been found not guilty, but he didn't want to spend 3 more months in jail, and calling the prosecutors liars.
Well, this was excruciating because hopefully, in our collective opinion, Jeffrey would have been found not guilty of everything. So this is very painful. but that's another 3 months or so in custody. And he wants to go home to his family. We've spent a year trying a case where the prosecutors have put on lies, knowing lies, hiding evidence. Is insane in 2024 in the United States of America.
Steele thanked Thug and called him a great person.
I especially want to thank Jeffrey for letting me represent him. I think he's a wonderful person who does wonderful things and will continue to do things even greater.
And Steele said that he didn't want Thug to take a deal, but also praising the new judge and expressing gratitude for the leniency that Thug was shown.
I didn't want to give up the jury trial, but that was a decision made. And once that decision was made, we were just thankful that there are people like the Honorable Judge Whitaker who understands what a trial is like and what it should be like. And I cannot thank the Honorable Court for being here and coming in. She is not our first judge, but she's the first time we received justice.
Interestingly, Brian Steele would complain more about not getting to go through with the trial, saying that this plea is not the same as a not guilty verdict, and that's what they should have got.
He knows my feelings, which I'm not going to reveal for attorney-client privilege, but this is not the same as a not guilty verdict. That should have been rang.
Steele went on to complain about the inhumane treatment of Thug and basically said that they treated him so bad that he took the guilty plea just to get out of that situation, even though he's innocent.
Nobody here wakes up every day on a concrete floor that they're calling his bed, gets up at 4:15, gets shackled at his feet, his waist, and his hands, comes to the Fulton County Courthouse to be on concrete, eating out of a bag. Doritos is his meal of choice. And then coming to a courtroom and sit there with a leg chain on him every single day and hear lie after lie. So for Jeffrey go home today and not have another 90 days or 120 days of it, he is very happy, thankful to the Honorable Court. So to answer your question, this was not what I wanted. I don't believe that it is just, but I believe that under these circumstances, it is justice for Jeffrey Williams, and he is delighted, as are we, and thankful. I think it is wrong, and it needs to be fixed, that an innocent man is arrested on May 9th of 2022, is denied bond, and has to plead guilty and nolo to get freedom after 2.5 years in custody. Justice would have been served on May 8th of 2022 if the grand jury no-billed his indictment. That would have been just. And it's wrong to be under investigation. He's been under investigation for 15 years. 15 years by task force of federal government and local government. Think about that.
Steele would then say what Thug failed to say in the courtroom, that he feels bad for the loss of life, but that it's wrong for people to try to take his music or social media postings as confessions, which I think they were.
Jeffrey Williams is being truthful. That is his heartfelt feelings. He feels so bad for the loss of life, and he feels bad that people are taking his music or his social postings and making it into violence. That is all promotion. That is not a symbol of go hurt somebody.
Ultimately, Brian Steele did his best to save Thug, and as a result, Brian Steele was deified as a legend amongst Young Thug's fan base. He's clearly a world-class lawyer. Perhaps not the most ethical one, but undeniably a bulletproof defender. Meanwhile, the office of Fanny Willis released a statement on the plea off the back of this defeat. A muted claim of victory that claimed to have held YSL gang members to account. The statement would read, "The convictions in this case represent accountability for admitted members of YSL, a violent street gang. Mr. Williams plead guilty to all of the charges against him and allow the judge to determine his sentence. Every criminal defendant in every case has the right to make that decision at any time. This indictment includes 28 defendants, with 14 having charges remaining to be resolved, including murder, criminal street activity, racketeering, and other crimes. We are still in the middle of the process of reaching verdicts on those charges, and will continue to work to bring justice in those cases." And Fanny Willis was right. There were still other defendants facing their cases in connection to YSL's activity. And considering how Brian Steele said that he wished he completed the jury trial and got a not guilty verdict, others would test their luck and strike gold. Yak Gotti and Shannon Stillwell are denied pleas for charges of murdering Big Nut and are forced to press on with their trials in front of a jury. But ultimately, in another shock outcome, in the end, both of them were found not guilty for that murder in another dramatic court courtroom moment brought, Thug fans would be overjoyed at the release of their favorite gangster rapper, but we mustn't forget the real victims here, Donovan Big Nut Thomas and his family. In a heartbreaking video, Big Nut's tearful mother would visit her son's grave after the verdict, expressing frustration with the legal system and telling followers that they know what really happened.
And do this for my baby. And come see him. Let him know it's okay. We're gonna be all right as a family. Because they might not been found guilty in the eyes of the law. And those fake jurors they had up there. But guess what? We got this. Because we know the truth. We know what happened. And I just had to come see my baby to let him know that we got this. Being just as I was in the end. And it's always gonna be lonely enough forever. I'm just mad as hell. And I ain't gonna say I'm mad at the state because them people did what they can do. And just those bouncers got there and lied and played and I was paid off. Even to the jurors, the deputies, they were all full of bull down there. But right now I'm just mad. I'm upset. I still got my faith. My grace and mercy and the higher power that we do serve. And I just had to come to let my baby know that Mama was there. Your daddy was there. And we got there, of course, it was the unthinkable was heard, not guilty. But though they know they're guilty. I just had to come see him and let him know it's gonna be okay. And I'm gonna keep smiling, I'm gonna keep crying, I'm gonna keep laughing. And I just want y'all to keep screaming his name. Long live Nut forever. Let them know they haven't done anything.
It's heartbreaking to see Nut's mother going through this, but even more devastating is to see just how much Thug had benefited from everything that happened. Not just 7 years of career success, seemingly at the expense of Big Nut's life, but if anything, Thug had also profited massively from the press surrounding the trial. He used it as a sort of fashion show to showcase his Spider merchandise, as well as interesting fits and hoodies that you wouldn't normally see someone wearing to court. After Thug's release, Brian Steele even became an official model for Thug's Spider brand in a morally dubious but undeniably slick marketing promo. So as well as profiting handsomely from using the trial as a catwalk for his merch brand, when Thug returned to music, he would continue to spit in the face of his victims. On January 2nd, 2025, Young Thug's first public music release since his release from prison dropped, in the form of an all-star feature alongside Future on Lil Baby's Wham album, something that he had teased in an earlier tweet from jail. And it made sense that Thug's first appearance was on Lil Baby's album, as after all, Lil Baby was allegedly at his house right before the raid, and Thug was even seen listening to Lil Baby's music on headphones in the courtroom. Thug's first public verse came as a feature on that Lil Baby album, and the song was titled Dumb Dumb and Dumber, with Thug, Baby and Future going back to back. And while Thug's verse itself was rather bland, likely as a result of his probation, meaning that he can't do any of that gang talk, Thug's opening comments before he started featured a defiant statement, saying at the opening of his verse that he didn't even feel like he was locked up for real because he was having his way the whole time in prison. And just like that, Thug was back at it as if he never left, completely downplaying what he had gone through like it was absolutely nothing. I mean, if you were having your way the whole time in prison, why'd you take that plea? At the end of the day, this all just seems like a huge miscarriage of justice in so many ways. It seems like there was never any true justice or accountability for the murder of Big Nut. Person after person seemingly was allowed to slither out of any accountability for this crime, partly due to the prosecution and judge's poor form, as well as seemingly genius plays by Thug's lawyer Brian Steele. And I just can't help think that YSL Woody was seemingly the chess piece that led to the entire case falling apart. The generous interpretation is that Woody was ultimately just a useful idiot, trying to protect himself from consequences, with the prosecution not realizing what a slippery and erratic character they were really dealing with. But the more nefarious angle, which is simply my opinion alone, is that it's not unthinkable that there was perhaps some kind of behind-the-scenes collusion between parties to place a Trojan horse snitch in with the prosecution, with the whole case relying on this one domino that, when pulled, caused everything to collapse. Now, there's no evidence to support that, that's just my opinion, but to me this case massively echoes King Von's murder case, where Von's co-defendant Big Mike, in the trial for the 2014 murder of Malcolm Stuckey, told prosecutors that he would be snitching on Von right up until the last minute, before shocking the entire courtroom, refusing to implicate Von and allowing him to walk free with no consequences. Perhaps that's an overestimation of things, but honestly, considering how things were looking for Thug at the start and how everything ultimately turned around when Woody got involved, things just seem incredibly strange. In the end, Fanny Willis gave an enormous gift to Young Thug. In an era of drill music where the killer rappers are the ones who garner the most attention, Young Thug has now essentially gotten away with murder. Not only did he manage to get out, losing just 2.5 years of his freedom compared to a potential life sentence, but taking the guilty and no contest pleas on these serious charges and getting out of jail immediately after means that he's totally in the clear. And even more interestingly, meaning that all of those violent lyrics that he rapped over the years about being a shot caller for his murderous YSL gang can't really be doubted. Even in his first video after getting out with T.I., a boastful Young Thug would say with pride that there's no cap in his raps.
You feel me?
You did.
Hey man, ain't no cap in it.
No cap in my rap.
You feel what I'm saying?
The right way.
It's time.
The right way, bro.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right way.
Yeah, that way.
Yeah.
And go tell that.
From this clip, it seems that Young Thug really wants the world to know that he really did the things he rapped about and essentially got away with it. And honestly, who am I to deny that? So congratulations to Young Thug, welcome home, and now begins a 40-year challenge to see if he can stay out of trouble while on probation. I certainly wish him the best of luck, but after him and Brian Steele mopped the floor with the case in the courtroom, there's no doubt that an army of cops, lawyers, and judges in Atlanta will all be crawling, looking for any excuse to send Big Slime back to prison, this time for good.